This is a work session. We're going to go from 5 till just short of 6, or as much time, I guess, up to that we need. We're going to be looking at new facility site planning and facility programming for new PD and Public Works building out at Mid-Valley. So, no further intro, sir. You got the.
I'll
okay, why
do
don't
a
you?
quick,
Yeah, go ahead.
introduction here. So, Roger Schroepfer is here from Wold Architects, and Amy Lalone was maybe going to join. She's under the weather, so she didn't want to be here in person. But we have been working on some site planning and programming for what buildings would need, and this is both for the Public Works and for the police. So if you recall, we acquired 2 different parcels at Original Road and Highway 82, basically. One was the old Shelton drilling property, and the other is Umbrella Roofing. And so we're trying to, look at those sites for, how best to suit the future needs of the PD and Public Works. Public Works is currently operating out of the new site, and of course still using the old site on Few Lane, but we did finish that pole barn, sort of the open pole barn over there, and have some office space that staff are using. But we do have a lot of information to get through. We'll save some time here for Q&A toward the end, but we want to give Roger enough time to go through what ended up being a very comprehensive analysis and a lot of time spent not only with staff asking about their needs, but looking at relevant examples. So we did do some field tours on the Front Range and then in the region here. So with that, we'll let you get started.
Excellent rendering. I think we're pretty ready to go.
I know, it looks nice, doesn't it?
We're done.
And Chief Knott and Lieutenant Aaron Munch are here, and then Boyd Beerbaum is here as well, so they can join the conversation once we get to that Q&A part.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep. Thanks,
Good
Roger.
evening, everyone. Again, my name is Roger Schroepfer. Wold Architects and Engineers has been in business for 55 years. We're a 100% public sector firm, so all we do is work with communities like yourselves. Our motto really is to make a difference in the communities we serve, and so that's really important, and it's been a pleasure to help serve this project. I've actually been doing this for 35 years, and I think I calculated one evening that I've probably been a part of or sat through about 1,000 public meetings, so quite a few opportunities to do this type of thing. So again, as Ryan said, we had a number of people that helped us lead us through this process. They provided great input as we move forward, and they were integral to getting us to this point today. So again, starting off with recognizing that you had a need. Your police station really lacked some operational space. It wasn't a great experience for the public coming into this building, and they really big needs in patrol and evidence. Public Works, similarly, they're in a portable trailer and really lacked the operational space. They were making do with what they had. As Ryan mentioned, they're kind of split between multiple locations. They didn't really have a place for training or break or things of that. So again, this is a great opportunity for them to improve their work environment. So the planning process we went through really was focused on really exploring the ideas. Again, that's what this whole process is about is, let's understand some ideas, but before we do that, let's establish some criteria, guiding principles that were important to this project. And ultimately, we want to make sure that any process we go through, that there's alignment, there's agreement, this is the right solution, this is where we need to be, and I think we achieved that with the core planning group process. So again, some of the key planning concepts for the police department, and not only yours, that this group kind of focused on, was again making a front face to Highway 82, clear orientation or after our Publix, user-friendly. Again, they wanted to make a lobby that was had opportunities to make it a better environment if you have individuals that come to this facility. And then ultimately also a community room. Again, we're seeing this more and more in police stations, that a community room that can be rented and used by the community attached to a police station. Again, it's that police and community opportunity to make connections with one another. Obviously with PDs, it's also needs to be safe, secure, redundant, durable. They're 24/7 facilities, and so there's some important components around that. Similarly, functionality with a PD and their operational efficiency is important. There's a lot of sequence of events that happen at a police station, whether it's chain of custody for evidence to patrol when they're coming into the facility, needing to use lockers, and so there's a lot of different scenarios that they go through. So we want to make sure that any police station you design, that it's functional, operational, and efficient. As far as the public works, again, for them, it's really important about, they're moving a lot of equipment, a lot of materials, so making that safe movement. They really, again, don't have a great environment for their administration or support areas, so creating some great opportunities for that within this new facility. As far as, again, equipment is huge for Public Works. Again, right now it's kind of scattered in different locations. It'd be good for them to get that centralized. Again, protection of some of that equipment is expensive equipment, and again, durability, make sure it lasts long is good for the community. And then finally, again, washing vehicles was something that would help provide pride. Police could use it as well if they're on the same site. So those were some of the criteria that were established for the process. As we moved through, we started looking at creating a space needs program, or what space is needed in each of these facilities. In order to do that, we looked at interviewing staff. As Ryan said, we went on a whole number of tours. We developed some space standards. We looked at functionality of these spaces, and we wanted to find any multi-use functional or efficiencies that we could in the process. So the facilities that we did tour for the police was Aspen, Avon, Firestone, and Timnath. Again, a little larger in population, but we had learnings from each and every one of them. And there was a lot of good takeaways. It was good for the core planning group to kind of get a sense of the size of these spaces, how they function, what's important with them, and we drew a lot from each and every one of them into the programming of this space. Again, there's just some statistics there on cost for those facilities, when they were built, and the number of staff that are within them. Similarly, we toured 3 public works facilities, one close, Pitkin, and others on the Front Range. Again, similarly, looking at the different types of spaces that they offer, whether it's office space, fleet vehicle space, storage space. Again, each one of these facilities had something to learn from as we went through those facilities. Then we created some space standards, again, and it's really about, we learned a lot about tours, about how big was that space that we toured through. That's appropriate for us. And so we wanted to make sure we documented those types of spaces, and how big a space do you need for an office with 3 chairs and things like that were important to establishing the program. So we did eventually come to, after multiple meetings and multiple give and takes, we did come to a program for this facility, for the police station part of it. Again, on the left is the existing space that you have, and on the right is what's programmed. Again, I want to make sure to point out that there's 2 numbers here. The net square foot numbers are always the interior spaces that you see in a building, so the space within the rooms. It doesn't account for corridors, mechanical spaces, utility spaces. That's what that 1.45 is there for, to account for those things that you don't necessarily program in a building. Now you'll see that your existing is 1.39. Well, one of the reasons why that's more efficient is because it doesn't include any of the shared mechanical systems in that building. And there's not a lot of shared corridors. As far as the public works, again, we wanted to, on the left is the existing. You'll see two blue lines there. We wanted to program what was going to be put on what we're calling Public Works West. And then we also wanted to look at the total program, which would include what is now being referred to as Public Works East. So we wanted to capture both of those things. Again, similar thing, this is more office space, so you'll see that higher net to gross number. And then garage spaces are much more obviously efficient, and you see a lower number there. So then we got into the fun stuff, which is looking at options and ideas and concepts and cost. And it really, again, any option we looked at, we tested against that core criteria that we created, the guiding principles that we created early on. We wanted to look at the functionality of the solutions and making sure they're function for you. We looked at, how can we make this as affordable as we possibly can, but still meet the needs of Basalt. And then we wanted to make sure we kind of needed to project in the future a little bit about cost. And when you think about cost, keep in mind that, there's a lot of things that affect cost, location, the quality of the construction, the complexity of the project. Those all factor in to costs. So let's have some fun and start looking at some of the designs. Again, when we're looking at the site plan, we really wanted to kind of think of it, how do we make sure it's phased? How do we approach this project so that we can build over time possibly and build our way into this site? How do we maximize what is essentially a pretty small site for the types of things that you want to fit on here? Again, visibility from 82 is important, a public presence. They really needed a separation between the public and the private areas, making sure it had an ease of egress and ingress. Again, and they wanted to make sure that we could accommodate some type of expansion on this building. So this was a preliminary site plan that we put together. I just want to, again, one of the concepts is to use the buildings to split the public area from the private. And as we began looking at that, again, what was using up a lot of the site, there wasn't a lot of yard space left over. And then we started saying, well, how do we maximize this site? And one of the things was, well, obviously looking at multi-story buildings. And we were always looking at the police as a multi-story building, but then we started to look at the public works, which was functioning as a single-story building. Well, maybe we need to make that two-story building as well to, again, save on site space. And once we did that, we started saying, well, now do we really want two elevators? Do we really want two? And then we said, well, maybe we can start moving those two pieces together. And what does that do? So that's when we came up with our final plan. Again, coming off of 82, there's this existing road here. We would come off that with some type of security, a gate for the private area. The public would come in. There's, again, a very prominent front face to this building. So as people coming into the site, they're going to know exactly where they need to go because there'll be some type of architectural prominence to that front entrance. Then they can park and then move into this building. This gray area is in essence the police department. This tan is shared, and the green is public works. In the back, then we were able to create a larger yard area. Again, keep in mind there's a lot of large vehicles with trailers that need to make a lot of movement in that area, and still create some staff parking for police, some parking for public works, some material storage bins, maybe even convert the existing pre-engineered building that you have there into a heated facility, and then build maybe a new wash bay that's close to that egress point to the site. We also wanted to make sure that we maintained a emergency egress out of this site for police. Again, if there was let's just imagine there was a big accident out here and police need to get out, they could maybe make their way through here, but we also want to have a second way out of that site at all possible. So again, that was the basic understanding of the site plan. We did look a little bit further in looking at the facility building plan, and I'll quickly walk you through this. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this evening. But again, it's that shared public lobby with public toilets, reception for police, a soft interview room. If someone's coming in, a victim or something, they can bring them into that soft interview room, and then the police come from the secure side. So this line here is showing that secure line of that lobby area. There's an elevator and stair that take you up to the upper level that I'll show you in a second. So off to the right then is the Public Works, off to the left of that is the police. Going to the Public Works first, again, they have a break area. Staff could come in that back area. This would be like a mudroom where they can clean up, into the locker room, use the break room, and then there'd be open office area down here with some breakout meeting rooms. I think one of the problems they have now is in an open office environment, they can't have private meetings, secure meetings. It disturbs everyone else that's going on. So that was important to them. Then looking on the police side, again, have it going through a secure door. Most public aren't going to be going through here. They're going to be going up the stairs and to the community room that's up above. But just as this light blue or gray area is all the patrol type of things. So they're going to be parking their police vehicle out here, coming into that vestibule, right into the report writing area. They may have also come into the garage to drop off evidence or a detainee that they may want to question. Then they have evidence processing, which is bag and tag, which is you're taking a piece of evidence, you're documenting that evidence, you're tagging it, you're securing it, and then putting it into pass-through evidence lockers. And then from there, it goes into evidence storage. Again, right now, your current setup is that those are completely separated and you don't have a great chain of custody in your facility. So then if I move to the upper level, again, starting you from that lobby stair coming up, again, secure point, there's a shared large conference room, and then there's a community room on the upper level. With larger men's and women's restrooms up there to accommodate larger events. And then, again, on the public works side, another open office, the director, deputy director, and a future reception area. On the police side, everything upstairs is basically a shared break area. So if patrol are coming up, they're using this area. It's an area for collaboration between chief, lieutenants, and investigators and patrol in that area. There's also a shared conference room, and then you have some utility, electrical, data rooms. As far as expansion goes, again, we see it as if you build this correctly, you could possibly future build out an area out here, or even on the roof on that. There's also a little bit of area on grade that you could expand as well. But we wanted to make sure that this was set up for a long term. You don't want to build it and 10 years you have to add on to it. So it's really looking, 20 plus years into the future. So that's the basic floor plan that we came up with.
Roger, might I
Yep.
jump in and just make mention of one thing is, we're trying to also, just knowing that building buildings is an expensive endeavor. As we're going through the programming, right now what you see in the programming is sort of a best case scenario for how we accommodate the police force and public works today, plus moving into the future. And one of the things that were important to us in creating this building, even though it's attached, is the possibility of being able to phase it. So can you build the police station first and then build the public works, offices on at a later time, if that, financial piece is a concern, or, right now we don't have the funding for it, so that's gonna have to be a conversation on, what strategy we use for that. But knowing that, we're in a situation that's pretty inadequate for our use today, and certainly going into the future as we continue to grow. But, I think we're trying to get as creative as we can, not only with, what the building materials might be, and, Roger can talk about that when he gets to the pricing, but then, again, this phasing piece, and then, he touched on it. Looking into the future, for us, Roger says 20 years, I think this is, 30 plus years of building for us, given that we've gone from a shared space in the fire department, down by the elementary school, into an office building now. Being able to create something that's really going to be lasting was sort of our goal in this, and taking a step to purchase the land, I think was at least an indicator of our commitment to it. So more to come on the financing piece that is probably going to fall on another council, as we know, but nonetheless, you know, this groundwork, I think, is that important piece and really trying to make it as flexible as we can as we move forward.
So as far as cost estimating, again, we take multiple approaches to it. Number one, we want to make sure it's an all-inclusive cost. It's not just construction, but it's total project cost that you're going to entail a building project. So we did reach out to Wember Construction, who does a lot of work in the area, and he had done some analysis on other police stations, other public safety facilities that he was involved with, and again, they range from Windsor Police, you know, projecting out to $2026 at, you know, $645 a square foot, all the way up to, you know, Aspen Police, which in today's dollar would be about $1,500 a square foot. So there's a range there. Obviously, it's cheaper to build on a range than it is up here in the mountains. But we, just looking at Wember's, he easily said, you know, you're $900 to over $1,000 a square foot construction cost for this type of facility at this time. So we did, again, break out each of the components of this project. Again, the police department, the public works offices, and then the public works storage. And it's broken down into those components that go into a total project cost for a facility. The blue is the construction cost, which is that hard cost that you, for building the building. Again, you can see that we're, for the police department, we're close to what Wember believed it to be. Public works a little less because, again, there's not as much security, not as much hardening in those types of spaces, more open office area. And then storage facilities are, again, less as well. Then there's the green line, which is all the fees and testing costs, miscellaneous costs that go into a project. And then the last grouping is furniture, equipment, and technology. Again, all components that are required for those types of projects. So again, then at the bottom is listed the total, what we would believe would be a good total anticipated project cost for those three facilities, kind of broken out into pieces and chunks. Again, I think in your board packet there's a lot more detail into what was in each of those. I don't want to go through each of them, but you can certainly look at that and see what was put into those. So with that, we wanted to open up and give you as much time to ask questions.
And as we said, we've got Chief and Lieutenant Munch and Boyd here, so they can answer questions for you as well.
Go ahead, David.
Since we were just talking about money, we've had a lot of cheap money that we've been doing projects with lately. Are there any kind of interest rate conditions that need to happen in order for this to kind of be feasible? It's a lot more expensive if we were to initiate financing now. Just curious what you guys think about that.
You know, I think at this point, you're right, money is more expensive to borrow, but we are, you know, looking probably a few years down the line before we get to that point where we're serious about, you know, taking a question to the ballot, or, you know, a combination of financing mechanism, like, you know, using some of our own cash. We are going to free up, if you recall from the budget process, some of our current encumbrance or debt in the form of those certificates of participation that we used to buy the land and then to do the swimming pool project. So possibly going the COP route to build some of this would be an option. So, you know, I think more to come on that, and at that point in time, a few years down the road, the interest rate environment could look different than it does today. So hard to say right now. But this isn't you know, what our plan was. We know, you know, currently we're in the middle of doing projects as part of Basalt Forward. So, you know, the idea was we would get through all of those projects, complete them, start on this planning phase as a follow-up to purchasing the land and building the pole barn that we did on Public Works, and just kind of start that process knowing that we have a few years, but this as a first step for programming, trying to get some feedback from you all. The next step would be looking for grants and such to do some, more architectural, dive into, what does the building really look like, and doing, a real robust design phase. So, I'm thinking we're, again, 2 to 3 years out before we get to a point of really looking for money on it.
The idea would be that it would be more favorable than.
Yeah.
than now. Okay.
And we're just not ready.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's all, yeah.
How would you describe the construction type? These are steel frame buildings, flat roof, membrane roof? Is that kind of the generic? Would you
Well-
just describe, what the pieces, parts are?
Yeah, obviously, we didn't get into full design of this facility yet, but again, typically police stations are, again, a steel-framed structure, metal studs. You want to make it a durable exterior material. Again, we've done both flat roofs and sloped roofs. Again, we really want to make sure it fits into the context of the community, so that sometimes dictates those things as well. Obviously, the public works, pole barns and things are more pre-engineered type structures.
Yeah, we've had some experience in town with, in our library with a flat roof membrane that I think post-construction, there was a addition of frames for PV panels. And, one thing you all know is that once you build a membrane, you don't want to penetrate it. So now they're staring down $350,000 roof replacement. So if we're going to do PV, we better do it, include it in the program, and not try to go in ex post facto. That's not going to work.
When we put our costs together, we did include that as
Yeah.
part of the cost analysis to do that.
I don't, as you get to kind of value engineering, I was just kind of reviewing the floor plan. There's an exercise room and then there's a community room upstairs. So it's big, clear span space, looks like. I noticed we have Chief Thompson's here tonight. He's hanging out in the back row there, and John Young's here. These guys are our experts from our fire department. They just got a bond approved and are setting, out to build a whole new building for their facility. And don't know if you guys have any observations about what some of these costs look like. Are they, in the realm, or, are you starting to get costing?
Little relief in interest rates, which is good, and we also got a AA rating on our bonds. So we think our timing is pretty good to move forward. We're expecting to have money in hand within a month or so. And we'll be breaking ground as soon as we have programs developed of our own. So I would say construction costs are high, likely to go higher. I think the sooner you can build it, the better.
Yeah.
I wouldn't drag your feet. I would go as fast as you can. If that's when you say 2 to 3, I'd make it 2. That would be my advice.
So to make a point on cost, Dave Detweiler has been working with us, and he's the same one that.
Could you please step up towards the microphone, please?
Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm Scott Thompson, the fire chief. So Dave Detweiler, our owner's representative, is the same person that came up with some of these costs. And we know that they're real because they're doing fire stations in Steamboat and some other places that we've correlated. And they're very close, and that's what we set our bond by, is using those numbers. So I think you guys are on the right track.
You guys are going to be a guinea pig beta site for us.
I have a
We're the
question.
forerunners.
We've been talking a lot lately about, in the future needing to have housing for town workers. Do you see like any appetite for needing to have an employee housing component to this building, or, would that be something we'd be interested in doing, or do we have plenty of housing at present for the police department?
I think there could certainly be a need in the future for more housing, and we did talk about that here on this site. I think you know, cost is always a consideration of, you know, putting that additional cost there. You know, the other is, you know, having people that are gonna be PD working there and then living on the same site, you know, that wasn't as attractive as, you know, having the, you know, some of our other efforts of building nearby, but just not right on the site. You know, certainly that's something we could consider, but the other thing is just to remember, it's a pretty tight site.
Okay.
And so we're trying to fit a lot in that area, and so, you know, adding the housing adds, you know, a need for some additional space is also.
Yeah.
So not out of the question, but not in the program.
No, I
right
see
now.
your point. To live and work there would be ideal.
Yeah, you can't get away,
No.
yeah.
Was this gonna, is it the intent for this to be a holding facility at all, or is it the police portion, or is that sheriff's, or?
So we would have one holding cell that would be a temporary, that wouldn't be overnight. There's so much that you have to go into if you do a secure holding cell for long-term. A lot of times the officers will be out on a call for several hours before they take the trip to Pitkin County or to Eagle. They need to come back to the office, collect things, do some stuff. So it'd be a secure place to put someone for a temporary, short time, and then take them to the two jails.
And this, just for clarification too, we did look on our tours, this would be for an adult hold.
Yes.
Not for child.
Not for juvenile. Yeah, there's a whole different set of rules and regulations regarding juveniles and secured holding. We would not do that.
So where I was going with that comment earlier about the community room and the exercise room is that I think the fire department has pretty effectively worked out a deal with our health club over right next door at the, I don't know if that's still the program. I see a lot of our firefighters. Scott, I don't see you in there on those machines very often, I have to say, but
So
that might be my mistake.
we've learned that during COVID, we don't want people to go there.
Oh, okay.
So we've actually put workout facilities in our firehouses. We learned the hard way.
Fair enough.
And for the workout facility, we run a 24-hour operation, and the officers are able to, I have officers coming on in 20 minutes. So they can work out in the morning or, on shift for 30 minutes or get a workout in. The gyms that we have are not 24-hour gyms to accommodate the night owls and the night workers. As for the community room, that was a really big component for all of us, is to have a place where the community can come. We're so limited in Basalt with community space. I look at the Pinewood Derby that happened last night. What a great place for the community to come and use that community room for meetings, for there's so many things that we'll be able to use for that. So that was the idea behind that, is to have another space within town that
Sounds good.
the community can use.
And for trainings.
And for training.
Training also,
Yeah,
yes,
sure.
definitely training. And then, if we have another situation like Lake Christine or some place that we need an emergency operations center, that can be that area. If fire department's overwhelmed at their facilities for their EOC, it's just redundancy.
Right, that's a good answer.
This then creates two public works facilities, still kind of three, because you probably still keep that place on Sopris.
I think the goal ultimately would be for the place on Sopris to be turned into affordable housing. We probably could put a couple units there.
Yeah.
But, as, we're needing that additional space for the time being, we would still maintain the few lane, which we're calling East Public Works, and the West Public Works. Just that additional space, the additional storage, we have the enclosed garage over here still. And, we are, again, we're growing, and so we probably eliminate that, but then have a balance between those two, with the main offices here, but then storage of material, storage of equipment that we typically use on this side of town, so that, travel time is less, because some of that equipment's slow.
And then we own the Basalt Police Station currently.
Correct, yes.
So that would give us some funding opportunity.
Potentially, you sell that,
Or
yeah,
lease it, or.
yeah, something along those lines, yeah. We're gonna have to, we'll dive into that and know those estimates and piece it together and see where we get.
And so timeline, this is like the beginning, and you're thinking 3, breaking ground 4 or 5 years from now.
I mean, ideally a little sooner than 5 years from now, like maybe it's built in 5 years type of a thing. That would be ideal.
All right.
What is I know I read in the packet that, public outreach and all that's coming later. What does that process look like? People are gonna wanna weigh in and.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be, a big element of it is, that I think public needs to know why you'd be looking at doing this. For me, going through this process, it was an education, understanding what evidence handling looks like and what our evidence handling currently is. I think because of the staff we have, it's secure, but when you take evidence into your possession, for a lot of that evidence, you have to keep it forever. And so that could be a living room set, and it has to stay secured. And the reason for that is, somebody might get convicted of something and then 5 years down the road, they retry it and you need to have all that evidence still. If I'm misspeaking on that, Chief, please let me know. And so that's a really important component of it. And then, like these interview rooms, when you're bringing a victim into a room, sometimes that will be a child. And so making sure that that's secure, that, people aren't necessarily seeing those people come in, so for their own security. There's just elements that an office building, while it's served us as we've, been a smaller department, we're moving into an era where the laws continue to change under our feet at the state level and federal level, and we're responding to that, but it's getting ever more, just challenging. You need more equipment, you need more training, and that's been a pretty consistent change, I'd say. And seeing the other piece is, when you think about the having the workout room or the community room, the ones that we went to that are pretty new builds, they all have that. And I was a kind of a hardliner on, well, why do we need this if you have a gym next door? Can't we go work out there? But you're also doing like other kind of training in those workout facilities that you need that softer floor because you're doing ground combat training, essentially. Things that we don't want to think about as civilians, but there is an underbelly in Basalt that bad things happen. And, we need to just be able to be living in the 21st century with our facilities. Again, we're taking a snapshot of 2024, but in 2050, we're still going to be in that facility, so think about that, that, we need to set it up with the right equipment so that we can adapt and not have to rush to build something or find a space because we're behind on, what the laws are dictating at that point in time. So I think we're in a good step here to make some of these decisions with eyes wide open as a community. So anyway, that's a very long-winded answer. And I think we want the PD to be out in the community really hosting some of these events. Roger and his group have done quite a bit in the way of public outreach. And so I think we can put together a good team where we really get it out into the public of what we're doing, why, and why it's needed.
Community Academy
Yeah.
being on site there as an example.
I'm sorry?
The Community Academy.
Oh, definitely in that
Yeah.
community room. And then also joining the police department and the public works is very important to bring departments together and share facilities. And, the workout room for the police department isn't just the police department's workout room. It's a workout room for town staff to come over and use. Getting them with us. town is so fragmented amongst all of our departments and buildings. If we can start to bring it back and make our visitors, if they have a public works issue and a police department issue, what better to come to one door and then get that all taken care of. So it's just trying to bring departments together and making it more accessible too.
Where's dispatch?
Dispatch is up at the North 40 in Aspen, across the street across Highway 82 from the airport.
And that'll just stay there.
They're up against a lease that's running out from the fire department. They're starting to set up satellite offices, and we spoke about, future opportunities for other departments. That might be one. Fire department might possibly need additional office space. So how can we capitalize on this building to accommodate many different jurisdictions and organizations within one building or two?
So timeline, when might, schematic design for buildings be coming forward? When would you see that occurring?
What we might look at, I mean, I don't have a tight timeline at this moment, but I'm thinking, throughout '24, we'd probably start looking at, trying to find some grant funding and such, and sort of taking it to the next level, with maybe late '24, '25 doing some more of that schematic design and making it a little more real on paper, and I think that, and then once you have that, I don't know if that coincides with public outreach. I would think public outreach might come after that, so you have something to show and talk about.
All right, looks exciting. Questions, commentary?
A lot of good info in the deck.
Yeah, that was good.
Thank you.
Good presentation.
Pleasure.
You're getting head nods here. That's about,
It's better than getting kicked out.
yeah. No, you got some backup back there. I don't think we're gonna throw anybody out.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roger.
Yeah.
Come on over.
Scoot over.
So, we got a few minutes here. Anybody want to take a break?
No, I'm fine, thanks.
For the boat races.
Are you ready to go?
Yes, I am, sir.
How about our TV local affiliate? You guys back there, good to go?
She is.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the January 23rd edition of the Basalt Town Council meeting. Looks like we have a pretty robust turnout here tonight. We've got some business to take care of. The public hearing for the Black Mountain development was scheduled for 6:50. I'm sure we're going to get there faster than that, but that was the original schedule. But we've got to move through some items first, so if you're here for that, you can hang on. So I will start the meeting by calling our meeting to order and ask our town clerk to call the roll.
Happily, thank you. Let's begin with David Knight,
Here.
Elise Hoddle,
Present.
Ryan Slack,
Here.
Bill Kane,
Here.
Dieter Schindler,
Here.
and Angela Anderson.
Here.
A-team is present, sir.
Okay, first order of business is our consent agenda. We only have one item, and that's minutes from January 9, 24, so.
Mayor, I move that the town council approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Very good. So the next piece of business is our call to public. This is an opportunity for people to address the town council on any item which is not scheduled later on in the agenda. So if you're here for Black Mountain, this is not the time to talk about Black Mountain. This is for general items. I don't know if Sandy or there's some others from Midland Avenue that are here for lighting. That's not going to be on the agenda, so that's eligible for this part of the evening. And we are accepting call-ins, so we have virtual public participation as well. So we encourage those that want to connect virtually to do so by accessing www.basalt.net under Agendas and Meetings tab. Click on January 23rd meeting packet, open on Meeting Access Instructions page. Our town clerk will put you in a waiting room, and then we'll accommodate you virtually should you want to call in. So at this point, I'll open the podium for anybody who wants to address the council on an item not scheduled later on for the evening here. Come on up. Well, you got it going. Good boy. And please give us your name and address, rank, and serial
You know
number.
me, Bill. It's Stacy Kraft. I live in Elk Run in downtown. This is related to housing, but it's on a different subject. Our town's at an inflection point. I've been thinking about this a lot. The children that were born and raised here, who have deep roots in the community, want to live and work and contribute to Basalt. They're not able to do that right now. It's not a healthy situation. Towns are not monoliths. They change, they grow, they evolve. I work with a lot of tradespeople in my business, and they all tell me the same story. They cannot hire and keep quality employees to serve our community. Several people I know closed their businesses last year. If you call a plumber, electrician, appliance technician, it's more than likely you'll get somebody with gray hair who's 50 or 65 years old showing up at your house. We aren't raising the next generation of workers to replace these people. Basalt High School does not even have a shop class anymore. It would be great if the town could start a dialogue and see if we can facilitate getting that back. I propose that our town allocate resources to foster the next generation of tradespeople and local workers. These are high-paying jobs, and there are plenty of students who could be incentivized to apprentice. There's a 130-person wait list at the local preschool. That's a multi-year wait. It's very hard to hire employees and grow local businesses if people can't find childcare and if they can't find a reasonably priced residence. We could offer CMC scholarships to high school students who want to work at the library, work in childcare, work in educational fields, who want to work on my Volvo, because there's no Volvo mechanics in town. We all have felt the effects of Postal-geddon. Our post office does not work. They have drivers coming up from as far away as Paonia. That puts more traffic on 82. It seems like the Chamber of Commerce and the Town Council could offer some bonuses to graduating high school students and other people who agree to work full-time at the post office. I'd like to see developers in the future required to allocate units to full-time employees who make our community run smoothly, postal workers, library employees, they can't hire at the library, fire, police staff. Almost all of us moved here from somewhere else. It's disingenuous and foolhardy to say we're locking the gates now and not allowing anyone to live locally, as we all do. It's not in our best interest to deny decent housing. If our town is going to function correctly, we need workers in our grocery stores, assisted living, childcare, post office, banks, maintenance professions, et cetera. Our town really is at an inflection point. We can continue to push essential workers further and further down Valley, which only increases traffic on Highway 82, or we can listen to people who tell us about what sensible development looks like, just in general. It's close to public transit, it's walkable to schools, it's walkable to the library, it's walkable to the downtown businesses. That's smart development, and I hope you guys will take that into consideration, and also take with a grain of salt any comments from people who say, let's close the doors. We all moved here from somewhere.
All right, Stacy, thank you. Anyone else care to address council on an item not on the agenda later on? Sound like we were poaching into, come on up, sir. Ted? You're back.
On a completely different topic. Ted
Good.
Guy, Swinging Bridge Lane, been in and around Basalt for a few decades. As I mentioned at the last meeting, I participated in the Aspen Voluntary Affordable Housing Program. Basalt has much of the same language in its land use code. What it's missing is the incentive or the requirement that people purchase the certificates that are generated. I've identified several properties where such a project could be done. 100% affordable housing, deed restricted, rental, and I'd like to offer my services to the town wherever you feel that would be best used to try and flesh out that program and make it work for Basalt. Thank you.
Suggest maybe we get you hooked up with Bach, our Basalt Affordable Community Housing.
Can talk about that.
Yeah, that would be a good
There's some history there.
thing to do. Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Anyone else want to address council? Item not on the agenda. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mayor, thank you. I'm part of the Midland Spur lighting contingency, and just, I understand that there's been some communication. Sandy just showed me an email about one of the questions. I have a question and also a request for consideration. The question was, how were the lights approved? Because as you know from the last meeting that we were here, we're not really very happy with them. We're not happy with the height in particular, or really the design. But I think that question was answered. I didn't get a chance to read it. Sandy said, what did they say? Can she tell me, us? Okay. And also, I guess the consideration would be, at the last meeting, we talked about the Midland Spur not being a focus on the historic value of the town, that the focus was on Main Midland. I believe the 2020 master plan shows Midland Spur as definitely a part of the historic district, and I don't know if that was changed, and if so, when that was changed, because our request at that time was to consider making the lights consistent from Midland down through the Spur, through the historic district. The Little Snell, which is the building across the street, is part of the tourist trail that people go through. And it just seems like, there's parking on Midland, there's parking on the Spur. We have 19 residences in a very small area. I believe it's 19. And it's lighted like a parking lot. So if it could be a more consistent plan, and I know there was discussion about those lights are $17,000. The last meeting we were at, and I guess it's really $11,000, it's still a lot of money. I don't know if they can be sold if we change the lights out so that they're consistent with downtown. Certainly if it's about money, then the burden appears to be with the residents. If it's a matter of quality of life,
Yeah.
value of property, whatever, it sort of comes back to us then, if it's not something we can fix. That's my request for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Ryan, you may want to clarify, but I think if you saw those kind of aluminum shields that, you know, were,
I did not see that. I've heard.
Yeah, they
I've seen
have-
that from work, so.
yeah, they were just installed today, is my understanding. So we haven't even seen them yet, so,
Yeah, the lights aren't on.
yeah. So do you want to make any comment about that?
Sure, yes. You know, at the last meeting, we had talked about continuing to mitigate that, you know, the light that was being seen from those residents. We've now done that, so we went up and we had purchased those shields. I showed you all that shield the last time. That was one that we just picked off the internet. It didn't fit, so we had 3 shields custom made this last week, which fit up there just perfectly. So they have a 180-degree, 100% block toward those buildings, so you will not see any light from those buildings as far as like that immediate glare. We also took the 2 lights that are directly across the street, one adjacent to Town Hall here, and then one sort of down by the planning building. Those have been turned down all the way. I mean, there's still light emanating from them, but to about that 5%. And then we'll finish that mitigation off by just putting those louvers in there. So there, you know, any light from, you know, perceived from the buildings across the street, as far as, you know, glare or trespass, is either eliminated, or if it's across the street here, it's been minimized greatly. So.
Very good. So, to be continued, I think,
I look forward to seeing it.
yeah, keep an eye on them this week and see what you think.
And they're doing electric work coincidentally up the street.
Yeah, so they're all off right now.
So they're currently off. They'll come back on. We'll see if we can get them back on,
Yeah.
so that we can see what.
Hopefully you would approve the illumination effects of tonight, since they're all turned off. I think. Okay, anyone else want to address council on items not on the agenda? Going once, twice, thrice. Okay, we're moving on. So, beg your pardon? Oh, yeah, sorry. Do we have anybody online, Sam, that looks like they want to address council? They don't have their hands up.
If they wanted to raise their hands, if they wanted to speak, anyone in the attendees section.
Looks like Bruce would like to speak. Let me,
James, can you get him, or do you want me to?
yeah. Bruce, if you unmute, you should be able to address the council.
Yeah, I think I'm muted.
Yeah,
There we go.
I apologize for taking the time to do this right now. The first person who spoke really had those comments really should have been, I think, addressed at the hearing on the project. But it's really hard for me to let that go without closing the door and all of that. The quality of life in this valley is equally as important to this
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else in the audience or, okay. So with that, we will move on to mayor and council reports, comments. Anyone?
I'll make a comment. So last Wednesday was the West Mountain, no, Thursday. Thursday was the West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition Housing Forum. Very relevant topic. There is some really interesting data in there, reports, and the slides from the presentation will be available all on the West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition website, probably by the end of this week, definitely by Monday. I encourage all of you who really don't quite understand what the situation is, what the concern is with affordable housing, to take a look at these reports and the slides. I think the thing that was most eye-opening for me is I had known anecdotally that nobody can really afford to buy a home in our valley, but to like see the actual cold, hard numbers of what it would cost to buy a home in Aspen, what it costs to buy a home in Basalt, what it costs to buy a home in Glenwood, what the square foot cost is, and then what the income you would need to purchase those homes looks like now is just shocking. So I really encourage everyone to take a look at that. Relatedly, many of you may have seen in the Aspen Times today that I will not be retaining my seat. Sorry. It was a very hard decision, and it is based on housing. I don't have housing security. I don't know where I'll be next year or the year after or 4 years from now, and so I have to step away from council and give my seat to somebody that has the ability to commit for that term. That I am really sad, because this has been an amazing experience, and the townspeople of Basalt are wonderful people, and I hope that you guys will continue to all work together in the spirit of camaraderie that we have been up to this date.
Well, we're sorry about that circumstance. So, we've got some resources now. We're going to be addressing housing, I'm sure, in this next several years. So, thanks, Elise. So I was just going to give everybody, you may know this from seeing the newspapers, but I serve on the RAFTA board, and you may have seen that we've selected Kurt Ravensslag as a successor to Dan Blankenship. So Dan is retiring at the end of 2024 after 35 years. If you were here long enough to remember the old CSU aluminum buses that used to trundle around, that's where we were when Dan came. And so he's built some amazing transit system in this valley, and we're gonna be sorry to see him go, but we have a great guy. So Kurt takes over in September. September 1, we'll have the formal handoff of the baton, and then Dan's going to stick around and help us, advise the board for several months after that. But and the other thing is that we saw some really encouraging numbers. We've been still fighting at RAFTA to regain the what we consider the trunk line ridership on 82 to get back to pre-COVID conditions, we've had some really interesting dynamics now that we've recovered from COVID. The trunk line ridership is just about back to pre-COVID. Aspen ridership is down almost 30%, and so there's a lot of speculation. Nobody's quite sure. The WeCycle program gets more ridership and support up in the Aspen end, so it may be that. We're going to be digging into it and learning more about it. But our RAFTA's live and well. We basically adopted our budget. We certified our mill levy, and it's a very solvent organization, very strong starting balance for this year, and we're making some headway on hiring drivers too. We were 15% down on operators for the system, and we're starting to close the gap on that. And we have the old roadway in, which we've purchased, remodeling, got 42 units of affordable housing that's going to come online hopefully this summer. So, we have good reason to be optimistic about the recovery of RAFTA from the really tough punches it took during the RAFTA year, or during the COVID years. So that's my comment on the RAFTA meeting. Anybody else? All right. Ryan, do you want to?
Yeah, just a
Take it away.
couple quick comments. First, I'll just say, in response to what we heard from Elise, thank you very much for your service. I will say you challenged us as staff, you challenged me, and I think we're better off for it, so appreciate it. And you will be missed, so. And I want to mention a congratulations to Doug and his team. And this is actually through contributions from all of the staff, because this report, which is called the Comprehensive Financial Report, also known as our audit, we received a national award from the Government Finance Officers Association. And that is a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting. So this is the highest form of recognition in the area of government accounting, and that only comes through being very diligent with our numbers and being very transparent. So Doug, thanks, great job. That speaks highly of our team. So
Great.
and then just one other quick mention. Today I spent the majority of the day down in Glenwood at the Roaring Fork Outdoor Coalition. There's a symposium that was a number of folks from different nonprofits and governments in the valley working on recreation. So the governor has put out a charge to look at recreation impacts in the state, essentially boiling it down to let's not love it to death. So this region is coming together and having conversations, and from what I can tell, doing good work so far to identify impacts and ways to manage through this now and into the future for our beloved outdoor spaces, which is why a lot of us live here. So.
Yeah, cool.
And one more thing. We're going to have an election. So yeah. So we've got 6 folks running for 3 seats. We had one person turn in for mayor, and that was David Knight. So that would be uncontested. But yeah, it looks like we're going to have an election. So what staff will be reaching out to all of those folks that put in. Typically we do sort of a staff forum just to introduce these folks to staff and kind of talk about a day in the life of what we do at the staff level to serve council. So that'll be forthcoming, and that'll be in advance of the election, of course. So that's it.
Excellent. Hey, thanks. Congratulations, David. I think. So next up, we go to presentations. Our first item is update on the Midland Streetscape project. So Dave Detweiler and Catherine Christoph will, as is their custom, update us.
We will be quick.
We saw a lot of action out there today, a lot of spraying, kind of cleaning out some lines or something.
Yeah. I'll let Dave take it away.
Well, good evening. Be quick today. You'll see a little bit of work the next 2 days up for the barber shop water connection. The end of Homestead will be closed for 2 days for that work to happen. Otherwise, we're wrapped up until we start again in the spring, which spring can be late February, it can be early March. So we won't have that date until we're close enough where we can see what the weather's really gonna do. So right now our look forward is kind of floating, but in February we'll bring to you kind of the sequence. We're gonna start at the knuckle, we're gonna start with the storm, we're gonna work our way up the street. So we'll lay that out for you, and we can lay it out for the public in terms of how you're gonna see that work progress through this year and into the fall. Otherwise, no big moves on the project budget or accounting. This month's bill will probably be really small because obviously we haven't done much since mid-December. That's about it.
Catherine, anything?
No,
That's got it.
that's it today. Yeah, the spraying was just kind of the exploration around that, that service connection. There's a large shallow utility bank that runs through that area in addition to the sanitary sewer and the water. So they were just trying to be extra careful so they didn't break anything while they're replacing that service. So, yeah.
Well, I think we anticipated that we would see the growth of potholes with the freeze and thaw cycle that we have going on, and sure enough, they're popping up out there, so probably don't need to tell you guys, but,
Yeah, I think
this is going to be
Stutzman
an
was out
ongoing,
hitting a couple of those
Yeah.
here this week.
They fixed a couple today, and without them being on site this week, we'll make sure that if there are any other big ones out there, that they address those before they move away again for a little bit, but,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, I saw a small car disappear in one of them, so they're getting pretty big. Well, thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Detweiler or Catherine on our streetscape? So we're still tracking for getting back to work, like?
Yeah, we're saying March 1st,
Okay.
but if the weather's great, well, great depends on what industry you're in, but if the weather is warm in late February, we could start up.
Okay.
Towards the end of February. If we're getting just tons of snow, 1st of March, it may slide a little bit.
Yeah, earlier the better, obviously. Okay, guys, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
So next up is first reading on ordinance number 1, series of 2024. It's an ordinance authorizing the sale of landscape right-of-way, vacation of right-of-way, minor subdivision approval, and rezoning to permit the sale of landscape right-of-way adjacent to the 1 Willets Place row homes on Lewis Lane to the 1 Willets Place row homes homeowners association. So, James?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This is first reading of an ordinance that would permit the sale of landscape right-of-way area to the Willets Row Homes HOA in front of the Willets Row Homes at 210 through 270 Lewis Lane in the Willets Town Center. The request includes vacation of right-of-way, a minor subdivision to incorporate the vacated right-of-way into the applicant's property, and then a rezoning to rezone the area to the same zoning that the Willets Row Homes have in the Willets Town Center. And pursuant to the Town Code and the Willets Town Center PUD, all of the actions require approval of a one-step review by the Town Council without a recommendation from the P&Z. As background, the applicants would like to purchase landscape right-of-way area that's in front of the Willets Row Homes on Lewis Lane for the $5,500 that is in the recent appraisal that's in your packet of the right-of-way property, and incorporated into their property as private open space for them to maintain and fence off. The area that's proposed to be dedicated and purchased is the area in red here on the site plan. And here's a photo of it. It's basically the grass areas that are landscaped. The applicants have indicated that it is an area that looks like private property and acts as their front yards, and they would like to maintain it to their level of preference. The HOA would also like to fence it off with a fence of less than 4 feet, as they've had issues with dogs going the restroom in the landscaped area and it not being cleaned up. Public Works and the Police Department were consulted on the application request. Public Works is supportive of the request as it will minimize potential conflict about the level of maintenance and allow the applicants to maintain it to the level that they have preference for. And the draft conditions would require the applicants to pay for some irrigation adjustments that would be necessary to split up the irrigation for the public and private areas. The Police Department also weighed in. They're supportive to relieve potential trespassing conflicts so long as the applicants build a fence of less than 4 feet around it to alleviate those trespassing potential conflicts. Staff recommends taking comments from the applicants. We've got Lori Dowles here this evening from the HOA, and then providing council discussion. And if you're comfortable, you could approve the ordinance on first reading. Lori, do you have some comments for the applicants?
Good
Mr.
evening.
Mayor, fellow
We have a
counselors,
former counselor here, so.
it's changed a lot since I've been here. Got TVs and everything, but there's an old face or two here. Thank you so much for your consideration tonight for our application. I'm joined by Rachel Holt. Rachel is the Vice President of the Homeowners Association, and we're here to answer any questions you may have about this piece of land we're looking to purchase.
What are you going to do with all this land?
Not much. The good news is that the homeowners, there's 7 of us, have decided that it's best that the homeowners association owns the land and that we maintain it in a consistent manner that we have been for the last 3 years. And all we're asking is for a little delineation between the public sidewalks and our front doors. It's right now, as James said, we have consistent dogs going through and people, they just don't seem to see that there's any delineation between public and private. And that's all we want to do, is just own it and take care of it.
Yeah, great. Questions, council?
My backyard faces your homes, and I completely agree with you. I
Oh.
can see from my backyard.
Oh, you
the
do?
issue.
Yeah.
Yes, I think the little fence will be good too.
Yeah, we love being in the heart of Willits. It's really enjoyable, but just a little bit of separation would be great. Do you have a question?
Yeah, did the sprinkler situation get figured out, or is that pending still?
Well, there's a condition in the draft ordinance that would require the separation of the public and private systems. There needs to be a little bit of work in the spring to determine exactly how much scope that is, because you gotta have the water on to be able to do that.
Sure.
But there's a condition that that be taken care of early
Saw
spring.
that, I just didn't know if it
Yeah.
was spoken out in past tense.
We just decided not to do it in January.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
Mayor, I move the town council approve ordinance number 1, series of 2024 on first reading and set the second reading and public hearing for February 13th, 2024.
Second.
okay, moved and seconded. Do we need a roll call on this, Jeff?
You don't, but
Okay.
yeah, you can.
So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, first reading is passed on ordinance 1. Next order of business
Thank you.
is a notice of award of contract for the interior build-out of the Stotts Mill Children's Center. This is a happy task here.
This is a happy task. Staff is recommending approval of a notice of award to build out the interior of the Stotts Mill Child Care Center. We advertised an RFP for proposals on December 8th with a due date of January 16th, and held interviews just this past Friday on the 19th. So it's been a very quick turnaround, and we're grateful for all the teams that submitted proposals to try to help us keep this project on schedule. Of the 4 bids, the selection committee unanimously scored Ari Nelson as the winning proposal. And tonight, Matt Ghost is here representing Ari Nelson. At this point, we'd like to do a notice of award. We need time to work through the contract, and we'll bring that back to you in February to
Okay.
go forward.
Great. Was this a competitive bidding process or negotiated bid, or how did we arrive at this?
This is a competitive bidding process, and there are other elements involved in it as well. Of course, usually if the proposals are complete, if they are meeting the schedule that we're trying to achieve, and those sorts of things.
Is Bruce Gentry going to work on this?
He's not, he's out there somewhere.
Okay. Done a lot of projects with Bruce, so I know him. Okay, questions from council?
It's been cool seeing the momentum build on this.
Yeah.
For a little bit, it seemed like, are we gonna get something going? And now it's pretty steady progress.
Thanks. It's really exciting, and I really do have to commend the contractors. Really went to the extra effort to get subcontractor bids over the holidays and at the beginning of the year, and it's important that we keep this going forward so we can lock them up and get in their schedules to make it happen, so,
Great.
And when will we see the final number, next meeting, or?
yeah.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you for not giving up on it.
Yeah. No, this is great, really gratifying to see this thing come to a conclusion, so. What timelines again? When will be the first party in that building?
Yeah, I think we'll look at starting construction in March, April, and the finish goal is in September.
Nice.
It's enrolled this fall.
Wow, that'd be great for school. David's got a kid that'll be in there.
Not there. I do wish sometimes. I'll be honest.
A little bit of aggression.
You might need to be in there. Mayor, I move the town council approve the notice of award for the interior build-out of the Stotts Mill Child Care Center to R.A. Nelson.
Second.
All those, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye, or is it a roll call because there's money?
You guys are free to approve this by voice vote.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, the hour has arrived for most of the audience. This next item is the continued public hearing, resolution number 38, series of 2023. It's a resolution of the Town Council of Basalt, Colorado, approving a sketch site plan review, sketch environmentally sensitive area review, sketch reach 2 of the floodplain review, sketch plan PUD approval, and associated development review actions for the Jadwin Black Mountain development at 431 Emma Road, Basalt. So James
Mayor.
Lint will.
I'll be recusing myself.
Are you coming back?
I'm not coming back.
Okay. We'll see you later.
Thank you. We do have the applicant group here this evening, and we'll have them do introductions after the staff comments here briefly. As the mayor noted, this is a continued public hearing on the Jadwin Black Mountain Sketch Plan Development application to construct 72 dwelling units, 12 short-term rental cabins, 4 glamping pads on the Jadwin property at 431 Emma Road, which is a 9-acre property located just west of the Red Barn on Emma Road, and you can see it highlighted here on the screen and in your packet. At the last meeting, the application was last discussed at the end of October by the town council. At that meeting in October, a presentation of the proposal was provided to the council. A presentation of the discussion items and the staff analysis was heard, and public comments were provided, and there was initial council discussion. Council identified concerns with various aspects of the proposal and tabled the review of the application. The main topics of concern identified by council at that meeting are listed in your staff memo, and they're on the first page of that memo, and were community benefit, affordable housing, visual impacts from Highway 82, dedication of the dogleg parcel for public benefiting use. And the dogleg parcel is the strip of land that goes to the west beyond the main portion of the parcel. And then also glamping pads and the preservation of the riparian area, and then traffic and intersection improvements. Since the meeting in October, the applicants have revised their proposal to respond to comments. And this evening, staff would suggest allowing the applicants to detail the revisions made to the application. And then staff would like a couple of minutes after their presentation to address several items. And then staff recommends asking clarification questions and taking public comment once again. Ultimately, staff recommends council provide feedback on the revisions to the application that have been made, and then continue the public hearing to a future date. Couple reminders on the review process before the applicants provide their presentation of the revisions. The application is being proposed as a PUD, which requires 3 rounds of review by the Planning and Zoning Commission and Town Council. There's a sketch plan, a preliminary plan, and a final plan review. The application is in the first round, called the sketch plan review phase. where the general concept of the application is evaluated to determine if it has merit for further more detailed review. The sketch plan does not provide any vested rights. And also the project involves an annexation request. The town's policy is not to annex property until a final development plan is approved. So any annexation would not occur until in conjunction with approval of a final development plan. So the sketch plan does not allow for annexation. With that said, I'd like to introduce the applicants to present their application. We've got Michael Forrest here this evening. Michael, would you like to introduce your applicant team?
Sure. This is Ramsey Fulton, our architect, Heather, landscape architect, and Bridger Smith, who you guys know, one of our development partners.
Good evening.
Can we go ahead?
Yeah, and Ramsey, would
Yeah,
you
would
like
you
to
guys get
introduce
close to those mics? It's really hard to hear. here, so-
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Hello, Council. Thank you for having us here tonight. Since our last meeting in October, we've been working hard to adjust the overall project concept according to your constructive feedback. I'm just going to give a quick overview of the topics we're going to discuss and the presenters from the Black Mountain team. After digging in and reviewing your comments and concerns, we are now proposing to adjust the overall massing and architecture to address the visual impacts of Black Mountain. We've reduced the overall program and use of the open space in order to protect the natural habitat. We've also worked to eliminate the community amenities along the river, and that is a direct response to the Roaring Fork Conservancy and this council. Dovetailing on that, we are proposing to either decrease or completely eliminate the glamping that is connected to our fishing cabins concept. In addition, we're offering, with town's direction, to gift a $700,000 fee in lieu in replacement of what our original concept has as the dog leg land gift. For the traffic and intersection, we've made some clarifications and updates to our traffic and intersection improvements, but as we understand, we can hold a discussion on this topic for another date. And most importantly, we've been working really hard on the housing solution. So tonight, we have Heather Henry, who's going to dive into the site plan adjustments. My partner, Michael Force, has taken the lead on the housing solution, and he's going to go in depth on that. And then we also have Yancey from Sopris Engineering and Stephanie to address any technical concerns, and Rich Fuller, who is our traffic engineer. Even though we're not supposed to really talk about that, he's here, he's listening, and he's available to comment if necessary. And finally, my partner, and lastly, Ramsey will start the discussion by diving into the architecture.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Bridger. I'd like to start by quickly reorienting ourselves to the project. The overall site remains a mix of multifamily housing, townhomes, purpose-built vacation rental cabins, and dedicated open space. Following the general residential unit count, mix of unit types, and general program as outlined in the 2020 master plan. The project is still a transit-oriented development with walkability to downtown and the bus stops. The project has considered and is planned to have WeCycle stations, support car share programs, provide EV charging, and also ready to be integrated into the Greenway plan and for a planned roadway connecting through to the library. So what's new? In our meeting, we heard concerns about the visual appearance of the development as the entry into Basalt, that the massing and three-story buildings were too tall. In response to this, we have stepped back, redesigned and shortened all the multifamily buildings, specifically dropping the height of the three-story buildings by more than 2 feet,
and removing the third story at the east edge next to our neighbors. This was accomplished while maintaining the master plan's guidance of tapering down the scale and density as the parcel approaches the county lands at the edge of the urban growth boundary. Employing design refinements to lessen the visual impact and stepping back from the highway without lessening the much-needed housing. So how has the character changed? To better understand this, we went back to the drawing boards and developed a series of sketch studies in an attempt to draw out concepts that felt like housing. Concepts that felt rooted in the mountains and the Roaring Fork Valley, and to study the three-story structure that took note from its less impactful two-story neighbors. In search of an architectural design that seemed of the place in Basalt, looking for designs that incorporate material changes, ground floor roofing, third-story reliefs, and a suitable relationship to the natural features framing the settings, as well as respecting the proportions of the neighboring barn that roots the historic character of this place. Have we addressed the proximity to the highway? The very first consideration here was to set the building back from Emma Road another 5 feet, allowing for an increased buffer to emerge out of the landscape design. As stated earlier, the upper floor of the 3-story building provides further relief by tiering back to allow a visual 2-story massing to emerge on the south facade. On the more technical side, we have upped our game to create better solar tempering at the south and increase sound mitigation of walls and windows. Lastly, given the site's natural location at approximately 6 feet below the Highway 82 corridor, the apparent massing of the 3-story designs sits only 27 to 29 feet above the highway, which is the height of a typical 2-story structure. So what does this look like? Moving from sketch to photo-like renderings, you can see here the compilation of design updates as they might appear from the slip lane as you merge onto 82. Showing the design both with a young tree line and the eventual mature vegetations masking the appearance of the structure. With a corner made of 2-story brick with deep-set porches and windows and traditional cornice detailing, alongside the step-back warm wood-covered structure, the design takes cue from the Valley's historic design language. Materials and forms recognizable to the community and consistent with quality, long-lasting, small-town character. From the up-valley approach, you can see the tapering off of the development scale. Once again, the pitched low-hanging roofs, deep overhangs, and warm natural materials. We have developed a community that does not compete with the local character, yet embraces a sense of place. For design, we are proud to present and hopefully we can fulfill the needs of our citizen workforce. Looking now at the overall site plan, we want to take a moment to reflect on how this design intentionally furthers our green initiatives. The south-tipping sloped roofs allow for integral and inconspicuous yet vast solar arrays to support the project's all-electric heating and cooling goals, while a central roof cavity provides a concealed location for efficient air-to-air heat exchange equipment. Along with the project's solar tempering and general efficiency of units and parking density, this project meets and exceeds sustainability targets adopted by the town and set forth in the master plan, while preserving meaningful open space. I will now turn it over to Heather Henry to elaborate on the site plan response.
Okay, Heather Henry, Connect One Design. I will go through for the site plan just the primary changes you will see in this plan as compared to where we were in October. So we heard a lot of feedback, not just from you all, but from the community, from some of our referral agencies, et cetera, about what light touch really meant for this particular project. So we've removed really all of the amenities. The amenity is going to be the river, and there will be access to the river still with our trail system, but that's essentially it. And again, we're going to make sure that even our trail system will be field located upon construction, which basically means we're getting out there with Rick LaFaro and others to flag how we would have the trail move through the property and access. Now, we did maintain, if you see from, say, the northern tip of the pond, and there's a number 8, a number 3, a number 1, we did need to, upon request of EMS services, an emergency access to that river edge. And this is a unique area for them to be able to access the river, even if something were to happen upstream. So they wanted to ensure that we maintained that, which we did. We have also reduced the glamping you see in the revised application really now to just a few sites. So this is a very distinct area where even in sketch plan, we would love to hear your feedback. Leave it as a few, take it away entirely, leave a few, and one brainstorm is to do that as a temporary use permit. So basically, we'd have to request that seasonally. So that's another option that we could have on the table. So we'd really like to hear where we land on that, whether we should include those at all. We do still maintain around the southern edge of the pond, we do maintain our resident and visitor amenity space, so that has been kept here. Again, this is a very unique amenity for our workforce that's going to be living here to be able to gather and aggregate, and we do still have access to the river, like we said. We also heard you on the dog leg, so I really appreciate, having come from the municipal side, how sometimes it's great and sometimes it's just not a good fit to hand over a piece of land. So that has changed to the $700,000 payment in lieu, essentially, instead of that dogleg property. So really what you see in the site plan is what would be maintained. So that's existing use would be maintained on that property. There were a few questions about really what Ramsey was showing from, say, Highway 82, and what does that really look like when you think about it in section? How are we going to make a trail work and some of that tree cover and things like this? So we really wanted to get into a little bit of detail, at least, to show you how that might work. On the left-hand side, you see the highway corridor, the Highway 82. You can see this drop over many, many feet. It doesn't feel significant, but it is 6 feet. So there's quite a bit of drop that now you can see in that cross-section. The landscape you see in between Highway 82 and Emma Road, right now, some is existing. We've got a willow ravine there. We would hope to boost that a little bit. CDOT will have to approve that. We know we can't do trees, but we'd like to just, maybe we can get a little bit of additional shrub cover in there, bring in some willows, et cetera. So then we have our Emma Road cross-section. Again, this is existing. We got some of the utilities in here to really show how that corridor is working. And then you can see the landscape boundary, essentially, in between Emma Road and a trail. So trail pretty much adjacent to Emma Road, and we'll follow it. We wanted to meander that. I think we're going to end up having to do a pretty good corridor through there where that trail will go in. And then we're looking at this berming approach where we can get tree cover and get a little extra height on that tree cover and then drop that down almost like a ha-ha wall, so those first floor units have additional sound mitigation as well as privacy. So that's our Emma Road cross-section and how we see the trail coming in. Okay, this is a map for me that I'm extremely proud of, to be honest, and I'd really like everyone to digest this for a couple of minutes here. So this is downtown Basalt. This is not all of Basalt. You have a whole nother area in Willits, but this is a really special place. This is one of the diagrams out of the master plan, which we've then doctored a little bit, but the boundary, so the red dashed boundary is the urban growth boundary. You can see our symbol, and in red over on the left-hand side is our property. To be explicitly clear, this project and this property is within the urban growth boundary. That is not synonymous with annexation. A property can be within the urban growth boundary and still has to go through annexation. You know this. We want to make sure everyone else is really clear on that. So I wasn't just a part of the master plan. I led the outreach process. Connect One Design led the outreach process. In that, I'm extremely proud of that. We had hundreds of attendees. And those attendees represented an amazing cross-section of this community. You guys were there. You know about this. I saw your faces. So we didn't just do open houses. We did surveys. We did neighborhood meetings. We did a youth workshop. We did a Latine picnic. We really got to a huge cross-section of this community with those number of people. And honestly, they spoke very clearly about what they thought should happen on certain key parcels. And this property was one of those key parcels. You've seen, and we've shown several times, how this project, the uses that we have now, how we're laying it out, has really met that vision. People supported that vision in that master plan because this parcel is inside the growth boundary. They supported it because this is an ideal property for the local workforce. They supported it because it was close to town and services, and it would bring the vibrancy that this community really wanted to see in their core. I really implore folks, as they take a look at this project and maybe they stand up to speak about it, and you all give us this feedback, that we think really carefully about what we're saying. So when we say no to something, it's really nice to think that it stops there. And it doesn't. It means that inherently there's a yes to something else. And for this community, you guys are dedicating so much time and money and your own resources to building your own affordable housing. And now you have a project in front of you that, coming from the private sector, is doing the same thing, right? So saying no to that means what? Well, really, it means yes to a workforce, at best, is in their car and trying to get here to be a firefighter, to be a teacher, and to work in this community. At worst, they don't get to work here anymore. The Roaring Fork School District is desperate to get their teachers who can make the same salary living in Newcastle, and they can work in Glenwood, and they can work in Carbondale, and they're making the same salary. So they're begging them to still take the positions in Basalt. So yes means you're really pushing it to somewhere else, right? That's the yes that starts to happen when you say no to this. And I think that that's fundamentally what the master plan was trying to break through, was set a vision that we could long-term commit to. Have things changed since the master plan? Absolutely. Really, it's made it harder. Now it's made it harder to live here in the community, and it's made it harder to say yes to certain things, to say yes to projects like this, because we've seen so much change just in those years since the master plan. And we get that, and we're really empathetic about that. And so I think what we're looking for is not just that no, but the suggestions that say, hey, what about this tweak and that tweak? And tonight, I think, not only with what Ramsey has showed, but what Michael's going to talk about, the changes that we're bringing forward now from October, really have said we've listened and we've brought those changes forward. Thanks.
I'm gonna stand up here if that's okay.
Sure.
Mayor Kane, council members, staff, and the members of the public here tonight and virtually, thank you for your time and allowing us to present our project to you. I want to start by saying that we heard you at the last meeting in October. As shown in our proposed changes to our sketch plan, we have taken all of your concerns to heart and have revised our proposal. As mentioned earlier tonight, we are here to present you with a project that is 50% deed-restricted affordable housing, more than twice the current Basalt Town requirement of only 20%. And all free market units will initially be offered only to people who live and work in the Roaring Fork Valley. Before I get into some of the details, I just want to tell a story about how this project actually started back in 2018. Like many Roaring Fork Valley business owners, my partner Bridger, Coulter, and Ryan, who's not here tonight, were dealing with the challenge of finding housing for their trusted employees. After exhausting their search and coming up with nothing, they set out to solve the problem themselves by looking for parcels of land to rent or buy to set up state-of-the-art, removable tiny homes but that ended in a dead end as well. Finally, they found the Jadwin parcel, and what started out as a small idea to solve their own needs has now morphed into a proposed housing community reflective of the master plan's vision that would give local workers an affordable place to live. As we all know, the Jadwin proposal is for an annexation, and I believe that after hearing our presentation today, you, as members of this council, will agree that the Jadwin project provides a significant public benefit and meets all the criteria as laid out in the town code, the 2020 master plan, and the Basalt Forward 2030 plan, which I know doesn't get a lot of discussion, of promoting the public health, safety, and welfare of the town of Basalt community through the building of affordable housing. We need your support so that we can accomplish those goals. Affordable housing is a public health crisis in this valley. Research and data and our own firsthand conversations with nonprofits, businesses, and leaders of the essential workforce prove this fact over and over. As Gail Schwartz from Habitat for Humanity has said in a meeting with us, housing is a part of the critical infrastructure of this valley, and we have to start thinking about housing as much as we think about roads or electricity or water. At the Western Mountain Regional Housing Coalition Forum just last week, David Mylar said, "We can't have a healthy and balanced community without housing." Since October, we've learned that the town is in the process of revising their housing code, and at the urging of town staff, we have met with numerous entities, including the Roaring Fork Fire District, Pickens County Sheriff's Office, the Roaring Fork School District, Aspen Valley Hospital, Pickens County, Eagle County, the Aspen Valley Ski Club, Colorado Mountain College, RAFTA, CDOT, the Housing Coalition, Valley Settlement, Aspen Community Foundation, and WeCycle. Every single person we spoke with said they are in desperate need of housing. The partnerships with these local entities have enabled our project to get to 50% deed-restricted housing, as council urged us to consider in October. We have secured 2 letters of intent to date with the Roaring Fork Fire Department, who's here tonight, Aspen Valley Ski Club, who's here tonight, and we are working to secure many more. We're in discussions with Pickens County, who has written a letter of support that's in council's packet today, and we are exploring buy-down programs with Eagle County and the Housing Coalition. In speaking with the school district, we learned that, as Heather mentioned, Basalt teachers and staff are driving as far as Rifle and Glenwood every day to teach our children. To make matters worse, the salary for a Roaring Fork Valley School District teacher is the same if you teach in Glenwood Springs or Basalt. So teachers are basically forced to drive past schools to get paid the same amount as they would without driving. How long is that sustainable? What happens when the younger generation needs to fill these vacant teaching positions? Where will they live? Even Basalt's community leaders and trusted representatives are being displaced because of a lack of affordable housing options. We all appreciate our local schools and that they're providing a great education. We all love the chicken pot pie at Heather's, don't we? And being able to go to the hospital and get treated when we're sick, it's important. I've been speaking with the hospital system, and they have indicated that the location of Jadwin is within the radius required for nurses and doctors that have to live within a certain distance to be close enough to the hospital when they're on call. In addition, we believe the hospital and many of our other partners may want to also purchase free market units, and that was the genesis of our idea to prioritize the free market units to the essential workforce. Because when we were talking to them, they would say, you know, Mike, this is great. I can get 4 deed-restricted units, but what about the free market units? We're already spending tons of money every year buying free market units. What about the free market units? Can we get priority for those? And we said yes. The reality is home ownership is out of reach for most people. Rents in the valley have increased 40% in the last year, according to the Housing Coalition. In fact, one of the statements made at last week's Housing Coalition was there isn't an income that you can earn in our area where you can afford a home. Unfortunately, there are still people who are opposed to building affordable housing. Some of them are here tonight. We've met with the leaders of Keep Basalt Special, a group that's led by one of our neighbors to the west of Jadwin and a resident of Missouri Heights, and we are open to addressing any of their legitimate concerns around this project. As some of you know, this group has a website and a petition. We've observed that many of the people who have signed the petition aren't locals. Some are from out of state and even Europe. We have concerns that this group does not have the same local perspective as this council does in terms of reviewing the project's benefits that are reflective of the master plan and what our research has shown the Basalt community wants and needs. In addition, some of the misinformation being put out there by Keep Basalt Special, we'd like to specifically address tonight. The floodplain. There is no evidence that the floodplain or the wetlands is being expanding, as many petition signers have been led to believe. In fact, both our experts and we believe the town's own experts have confirmed this. Wetlands. There will be no development in the wetlands areas, period. Traffic. We've completed our own traffic study. The town has completed a third-party traffic analysis. Staff has made recommendations for 2 intersections, and we've agreed to all their recommendations, and I know this will be brought up at the next meeting as well. The groups also stated that Pickens County and Eagle County would like the property to remain in their respective jurisdictions and not be developed in Basalt. We don't believe this has ever been stated by either county. In fact, the master plan calls out specifically for the Jadwin parcel to be annexed into Basalt. And as I mentioned, Pickens County has also written a letter to council. Riparian. Protecting the environment while adhering to the local building codes is a top priority for this development team, which is why we've offered tonight to remove the glamping tents completely and to minimize all associated impacts to the open space and riparian areas. Remember, the Jadwin parcel is within the urban growth boundary as determined by this council and the master plan, and is sandwiched between the post office, the water treatment facility, and Highway 82, within walking distance to a bus stop and Old Town. If not at Jadwin, then where else should we build housing, as Heather also mentioned? The Basalt voters have spoken 3 times recently to say that they want more affordable housing. First, they spoke with their hearts and minds in 2020 during the master plan process and then identified the Jadwin parcel for development of affordable housing. Second, the voters spoke with their wallets in November of 2021 by passing a bond authorizing the town to invest $6 million of taxpayer money into affordable housing. And then for a third time, only this past fall, the town voters again passed a bond offering for affordable housing, this time for the fire department. With that, I'd like to turn to the exciting details of our housing plan. We are proposing 72 residential units. As I mentioned, 36 of those units, representing 50%, will be for sale, affordable, deed-restricted housing. The following is the breakdown of the AMI that will also be addressing the missing middle for the Basalt community. 30% of our units are Category 3, 30% are Category 4, 14% are Category 5, 26% are resident-owned. As I mentioned before, and I want to highlight, the other 36 free market units will be for sale or rent for a period of at least 30 days only to people who live and work in the Roaring Fork Valley. Based on our conversations, I believe that there's enough demand from our partners to probably purchase all of the free market units. And if we can do that, that's our goal. Lastly, I hope it's evident to the town council and all of you here tonight that this is a project born out of necessity and passion for this community. We have worked incredibly hard for years behind the scenes to address all of the concerns brought to our attention by this council, staff, and the community. We will leave no stone unturned to make sure that this project will be something that all of us will be proud of and will preserve the quality of life we all love. With that, I will throw it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. So, This is a public hearing, and I think it's the council's pleasure to hear from the public, and then we will take it back and have discussion, and we'll undoubtedly be enumerating issues or questions that we want to see further investigated. But thanks for the presentation, very clear. So,
Mayor, if I may, if
Yeah,
we
James.
could please have Robert Crable from Matrix Design, who's the town's
Great.
hydrologist, speak on the floodplain just briefly before we go to public comment. Ramsey, could you please unchair your screen?
Yes.
Just a brief update on the floodplain. The town's consulting hydrologist, Robert Crable, who is here this evening on Zoom with us, as well as staff, have met with the Colorado Water Conservation Board, CWCB, and had some further conversations regarding their remapping project of the Roaring Fork River floodplain, as they are doing throughout Eagle County currently. The CWCB indicated that they are doing additional modeling that they hope to have initial results from in the early summer to confirm that the Zone A floodplain on the southern 2/3 or so of the Jadwin property should be removed from the Zone A floodplain per Robert Crable's recommendation. So Robert is here this evening to provide a little bit of background on that recommendation and thought. Robert?
So, Robert, welcome. Look forward to your comments. In the course of your presentation, would you kind of bring us current as to what the relationship will be between FEMA and CWCB relative to delineation of the floodway here, the floodplain? I thought FEMA had jurisdiction and they were the final mapping authority, so I'm surprised CWCB has a role in this, but if you could explain that briefly, that would be helpful.
Okay, yeah, happy to do it. Robert Crable, Matrix Design Group. I'm contracted with the town of Basalt, and I'm not contracted with the applicant here, with the town, and I'm just trying to organize all the floodplain matters here that impacting the town. To answer your question, the Colorado Water Conservation Board is a cooperating technical partner on behalf of FEMA. So they handle the projects locally, and then through their technical review, then they submit to FEMA. So they're an agency or a branch, essentially, of FEMA, in this case here for floodplain mapping. You've heard of the Colorado Water Conservation Board. They've got a bunch of different branches. Just the floodplain mapping branch is the one that's completing this on behalf of FEMA. I completed the floodplain mapping in 2001, so I was here when that Zone A got established. I was right at the forefront when that all happened, and now 20 years later, here they are remapping it, and the CWCB hopes to release the final map in July of 2025, and that we believe will remove the Zone A parcel. So there's a couple of floodplains here that are being studied. The Roaring Fork River floodplain has been studied by me, and then here 20-some years later here by the CWCB, and they show the floodway and floodplain and 500-year floodplain of the Roaring Fork River main stem, and that it's not going to see much change. It had brand new mapping, and so we would expect that the mapping is going to improve over the years. So it's not identical, but it's very, very close to what we did in 2001. What is changing, and what's the subject of the Zone A, is if flood water breaks out of the upper bypass bridge, spills through south side, and has to return back to the main stem of the Roaring Fork River. In 2001, we had established that flow going through south side is nearly half of the 100-year flood on the Roaring Fork River. So 4,400 CFS flowing through south side. In 2016, FEMA officially adopted a change to that south side floodplain that changed it to 1,000. So from 4,400 to 1,000 cubic feet per second flowing through south side. So less than a quarter of what we had originally estimated. The zone A was a relic from 2001 when we assumed there was so much water flowing to the south side, it was going to flow over Highway 82 in multiple areas and could inundate this parcel. Now with a quarter of the flow, it's not nearly the issue it was before, and we see that fully contained on the south side of Highway 82 through south side and then spilling over closer to the wastewater treatment plant. So we think that when the CWCD remaps this in 2025, that zone A will be deleted. We'll just have the zone AE associated with the river and a zone AE associated with south side. And this zone A, which is approximate, will go away. It will all be defined with elevations of where we think that flood flow will go. So that's my interpretation. We're working with the Water Conservation Board, and they're going to update us throughout this process. It won't. We just have to sit on our hands until 2025. They should let us know how their modeling is going in preliminary mapping. We'll be able to update council how that floodplain may be changing here in 2024.
Great.
And so what this means is that if the council is inclined to approve the sketch plan, there would likely need to be a condition that a final development plan and construction couldn't occur until the LOMAR would be completed on that adjustment.
Okay.
And Robert will be here for questions if council has them. Just a couple wrap-up comments before we go to public comments. Staff has not included a revised draft resolution. Staff would update that resolution based on comments here this evening and bring it back at a future meeting. Also, staff has identified that we probably have enough to discuss this evening related to the topics that are other than the traffic and transportation. And so staff would propose to bring kind of back a session on the traffic and transportation at a future meeting. So staff would suggest asking clarifying questions from the council and then taking public comment at this point.
Great. Is that it, James?
That's it.
All right, thank you very much. So with that, we will turn to public comment. Just to refresh everyone's memory about our ground rules, we entertain public comment. We asked you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Councilor Slack has a very precise timing device over here, and there's a very loud, obnoxious bell that will ring when you hit your 3 minutes, so you probably don't want to hear that. It's not too pleasant, so I encourage you to keep. The other thing I would suggest is that there are a lot of people here and a lot of people want to speak. If your comments are precisely the same as the speaker that preceded you, give serious thought to maybe not speaking. I mean, this is not our first public hearing. It's not the first time that this council has been presented with very, very difficult choices between land conservation and housing and social issues, social objectives versus environmental objectives. This is the job that we do. This is a constant value trade-off. And so we're not new to this. We know that there are a fair number of folks that actually don't reside in the town of Basalt. It's totally fine. We welcome you. We will appreciate your comments, but please try to stay focused. And this is not a head counting exercise where somehow the number of people that stand up from Missouri Heights is going to persuade us one way or the other. I think it's valuable to hear your comments, but this is we're going to be responding to the code, our housing initiatives, to, many of the environmental concerns that we have about the site, the transportation constraints. So there's a lot that is going to have to go into the final mix on this. So with that, I'll open the floor here. Please come up to the microphone, to the podium here. Get the microphone close to you and tell us your name and address, please.
Ed Williams, 529 Emma Road. Before we start the clock, I have a traffic study. Should I leave that till next time, Mayor, or can I?
I'm sorry, what do you want to
I'm
do?
going to talk about traffic.
We are undoubtedly going to have more work going into the various traffic studies in coming weeks. I don't know, do you want to make a comment about the traffic study, or what?
Yeah, I do, actually, so I'll begin then.
Okay, just give us the highlights.
I'll give you the highlights. So we had questions about the conclusions of the applicant's traffic study done by FHU last September. So we had another traffic engineering firm, Galloway Engineering, analyze the FHU report using the exact same data. I asked Galloway to answer some of my questions, and I'll discuss her answers to two of them. Before I begin, I'd like to stress that the answers to these questions were not included in the body of the FHU report, so the Galloway engineer had to look into the appendix. Question number 1. Is the section of Emma Road between Midland Avenue and the roundabout wide enough to handle the Black Mountain development traffic? Short answer, no. Emma Road is a local road and as such is able to handle up to 2,000 average daily trips, or ADTs. To handle this development's traffic, Emma would need to be a collector road, which handles 3,000 ADTs. Using FHU's data in their appendix, Emma Road is forecast to have 4,500 plus ADTs with build-out. So it's designed for 2,000 ADTs and will be expected to handle 4,500 ADTs with build-out. Now my question to the council is, what is your threshold for deciding when Emma Road will need to be upgraded? Question number 2. How much will traffic going south towards 82 out of the roundabout back up to signals? That's called Basalt Avenue. So, short answer, a long ways in the morning especially. The number in feet I'm about to quote are 95th percentile, meaning that 95% of the time the distances are less than this. The existing backup in the morning from that signal back towards the roundabout is 211 feet. So that is about the roundabout, maybe a few feet down Emma Road. So traffic will very occasionally back up past the roundabout, about a few feet down Emma Road. I've seen this happening. The forecast backup as a result of this development is 563 feet, almost 3 times that distance. I pace this off, and that's all the way past the roundabout down to about 3 feet before Midland Avenue intersection. So, backups on Emma will create gridlock in the morning, especially because the traffic out of the development going east on Emma will jam the Midland intersection, and so on, and so on. Willits has a big advantage when it comes to dense developments like this because they have new roads. With this project, residents of Basalt are being asked to make friends with bad traffic at the entrance of town with not infrequent gridlock. I think this is too much to ask. Thank you for listening to me.
Yeah, well, just so everyone understands, we are here to listen to your comments. We're not going to engage in dialogue or start debating the merits of the project with council. We're strictly here in a listening mode. So, and another thing, just for those that have not been through these kinds of processes, this is, in highfalutin language, this is a quasi-judicial proceeding. So we are sitting here as judges of this land use application to see how it matches the comprehensive plan and development regulations of the town, subject to our staff's recommendations. So our job is to be impartial judges and to listen to all the commentary, but you know, it's not going to work to try to engage council in dialogue here. That's not what this is about. It's 3 minutes, put on your case, and then move on, get the next person to speak. So that's the way it works.
Okay, well, I finished.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we just come up?
Yeah, John.
I've got my 3-minute timer here.
We have a timer, don't you worry.
That's okay, I need to know. 49 years ago on April 7th, I rolled into this valley with $2,000 in my pocket, $2,000 in debt, and a commitment that I wanted to live here for the rest of my life. 49 years later, I have been the benefactor of affordable housing. I've lived in it. My wife was one of the early winners of the Midland Park condos in Aspen. It was the first public affordable housing. I think our mayor was there as well. My daughter has been involved in affordable housing. I've been involved in affordable housing. We've lived in it. And just for your edification, I've consulted with 26 different governments on how to do affordable housing. This project that we're seeing is something that on the fire board, which I've now been on for almost 19 years, we immediately jumped at and said, this is something that we've got to get our arms around, figure out, and see how it fits into our affordable housing plan. We have 19 rental units. We need units that we can sell to our critical staff. This is the vehicle we think that we've seen. We haven't seen anything like it. And in all my years of addressing affordable housing with all different kinds of boards, this is one of the best projects I've seen because it's 50%, the access to the free market as well to our community. We just don't see them like this. So I would highly recommend that you consider approving this and that we as a fire district stand ready to jump when it's time to move in and get as many of the units as we can. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Excuse me, sir, can I get your name?
Hey, you give us your name? Oh, sorry, John Young.
Thank you, John.
Next, please. Come on up.
Right over here at the mic. Thank you. Oh, you got it.
Go ahead. You can go.
You never get it. There we go.
Hello, my name is Karina, and I live in Old Town Basalt. And I'm opposing this plan because of the environmental impacts it could have. Basalt's picturesque beauty comes from nature and rivers, not from the houses with views of them. Developing our town takes away from the natural diversity of our environment, and preserving our open space is necessary. We are a part of Basalt's ecosystem, and we are not the only part. By building homes, we are destroying homes of rabbits, fish, osprey, bald eagles, bear, deer, and mountain lions. Despite efforts towards sustainability, such as including solar panels, the Black Mountain development cannot be truly sustainable. Not just 46%, but 100% of this land should be open space to preserve the natural and beautiful environment of Basalt. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Next speaker. Please step up and tell us your name and address.
Hi, I'm Virginia Leffler. I live at 721 East Sopris.
Great.
I actually was going to speak to the same thing she just spoke of. I have 3 pages. I don't think I can say it better than she said it, so well done. I agree it should be kept open space. I also wanted to say that I did sign the petition of from Keep Basalt Special, and I didn't love hearing that it wasn't locals. I live down the street. To me, it's a way of trying to join forces with other people in our community and a way of making a bigger impact. The one thing that I feel like wasn't addressed is I've helped clean up rivers up and down this valley with Roaring Fork Conservancy. So much trash in any place where the river has been remotely developed. If there's a picnic table, if there's a trail by it. I mean, I've picked up hundreds of pounds of trash, not exaggerating. This is bound to happen there. I would love to keep that space open space, keep it protected, keep our town the way it has all this beauty to it, and this is one of the last parcels that we can keep as open space, and I wish we would do it. And I'm sorry I get really nervous when I talk, but I just feel passionately about it. I would love to try our best to keep this town special, keep it from being overdeveloped, keep a little border around us that lets you know you've come into this like beautiful spot called Basalt. Last thing is, in reading the master plan, I saw it said for this parcel that 61% of the people that answered the survey wanted to keep the land used for agriculture, open space, or recreation. It went on to note, overall, strong preference in maintaining agriculture, open space, and recreational uses was important. A desire to maintain a large portion of this site for agriculture, working landscape, open space, or public recreation amenities, and a wish to maintain sensitivity to river shoreline, floodplain, floodway, and critical wildlife habitat and migration corridors. So to me, it seems like a majority, at least in answering this survey, and most of the people that I talk to would love to keep this open space. And then lastly, I feel like I've heard some chatter trying to say that only older generations want to keep it from being developed. I reached out to a number of my teacher friends, and 100% agreed that this should stay open space. And just for example, to me, young is 25 to 35. And they said, I will absolutely sign the petition, tons of exclamation points, wish we could stop all the Mid-Valley development. Another girl in her 20s, when I said, would you be willing to sign this petition, just said, duh. My point being, the young people are behind trying to keep this area the way it is too. So anyway, thank you so much for your time. Sorry for the wobbles in my voice.
Thank you.
But I appreciate it.
Next. Hi, Ann.
Hi.
Would you tell us your name and address?
Yes, Ann Austin Clapper, 11 Walter Road, which is in Emma. I'm in no man's land, Eagle County. My main reason that I'm opposed to this development, and I realize as I listen to this, I'm not totally opposed. I love the idea of employee housing, making it affordable, but the property needs to be set back further from Highway 82 and the frontage road. We do not need another tree farm fiasco. Also, please reduce the density, but I'm glad that you've increased the employee housing to 50%. The biggest issue is the river, the open area. Glamping pads and fishing cabins are akin to ADUs in a residential area and will create conflict between residents and short-term renters and campers. I've experienced this firsthand. I have people driving in my driveway that are not renting my house. I have people knocking on my door at 9 o'clock at night wanting to borrow an HDMI cable, which I had no clue what it was. And I think that if we can eliminate those people, make it easier to move back from the highway a little bit. Lastly, 30 days for locals to put forward an offer is unreasonably short. I think it should be at least 6 months. That's all.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you.
Next up. Those guys are leaving.
I'll live up here.
Okay.
Give me an extra 10 seconds, Ryan.
I won't start until you say your name, Rick.
Yeah.
Come on.
Name and address.
Rick
Name and
Stevens,
address,
190 Riverside, Basalt, Colorado. Full disclosure, I've known these Coulter, Bridger, and their sister Colby since they were born. They lived out on East Silpers Creek Ranch. So to Stacy's comment about children of Basalt, they are grown children of Basalt. Part of that disclosure is that I worked with their dad for 35 odd years with a company called Aspen Earth Moving, and we started with 6 people, ended with 130, and we always made sure that our employees had secure housing, great benefits, and a job. Other than that, the project speaks for itself, and you guys can continue your process, which I fully trust. Looking around at some things today, I found the Basalt Forward 2030 vision document, strategic plan, that stated that, you know, the town wanted to grow into its vision of a sustainable and connected community, which means connection to a place. These guys have been connected to this place for 40 odd years. One of my friends has told me and commented that the future is in motion in Basalt. And part of that 2030 plan has been accomplished. And that was based on the work you did following the 2020 master plan that you adopted. And those included the Clarks Martin redevelopment, the park, the connector, a bond that passed to fund the infrastructure on Midland Avenue. This community has stepped up and agreed to do things that are gonna create a special place in Basalt, a special place called Basalt. The future, I'm happy to see that you guys approved a contract with R.I. Nelson because I heard that Growing Years potentially is shutting down. Other public facilities are prioritized in that plan as well. You're well financed to do that because of some of the past decisions that councils have made. You have a proven performance in place. You have the appropriate tools. The process of land use, in my opinion, is updated and working. You're honoring the 99 UGBs that were created when I was mayor, and also Robert Crabell and I worked together on the River Master Plan in 2001. So a lot's happened since then. The one critical thing that did happen was the 2004 plan designated 7 receiving areas for affordable, attainable housing that were removed from the master plan in 2007 and then became weaponized by a certain faction in the community. So any conversations about childcare, any conversations about workforce housing were put in the same bucket as private sector real estate driven markets. And we now are down to 1 or 2 sites that may be available for this type of housing. So that's a little bit of history. And the other thing I think too is that saying yes, saying no, to Heather's point, it doesn't solve any problems. Somehow we have to figure out how to get our problems addressed in this community to serve our community and take care of our people that live here and give other people the opportunity to come and grow the community as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up.
Good evening. Thank you all for this. This is very informative. My name is Susan Hayward. I've been a resident of the Valley for over 40 years. I'm a former city planner, developer, and redeveloper, so I really appreciate your proposal. One of my major concerns is that the recreational uses are being kind of overshadowed by this discussion about affordable housing. There's no discussion that we need affordable housing. One, I would suggest that that be removed. Even the police in one of these former meetings suggested that it's not congruent with housing. Someone else has spoken to that, and I would just like to really put that down. Secondly, we're talking about affordable, but there's no numbers mentioned. What does affordable mean? I was living on Midland during COVID. The property that I was living in, my rent went from $1,900 to the very generous offer by the realtors who bought it to $4,000 a month for a 1-bedroom. I did the improvements. So let's get clear on what affordable housing is, because it's an emotional issue. But let's be clear, what is affordable now? We've heard a lot of stuff, but let's get clear on the numbers and let's talk to real numbers. Saying yes to development, in this case, I believe, is saying no to the environment. The majority of us moved here because of the environment. So let's be clear on where our boundaries are here. Let's provide the environment what it needs and keep that area pristine. And let's provide the housing that we need and define what affordable means. Thank you all.
Yeah, just point of clarification, the application for the affordable housing is stipulated in a variety of categories, and those categories correspond to a percentage of average monthly income. So, to the staff, the proposals for the cost of this housing are very clear because they're tied to the, if you saw in the presentation, there's like 30% category 3, 30% category 4. So those categories are tied to AMI, average monthly income. So it's not vague, it's actually fairly specific about how we're going to evaluate the application.
No, I have that same.
Next, please.
Oh, no, go ahead. You go ahead. I want to put this a little closer.
You can both
here.
talk.
My name is David Volz. I live at 158 Sopris. I am the Director of Finance at Aspen Valley Ski and Snowboard Club. We service, work with, coach 3,000 kids in the valley, approximately. And most of them come from down valley. And obviously, without employees, particularly coaches, that will go away. So it's very simple. We need housing, and we will subsidize the housing, say, if we have a rental program for our employees. Thank you.
Next.
Lee Schwaller. As I said at the first meeting, my biggest concern is the traffic. And we talked about the traffic studies. And I'm wondering if the traffic studies, besides vehicles, if they've considered the pedestrians. And I know that a lot of the people are going to be walking to the bus. And I've noticed, driving back and forth every day, that when pedestrians get to the intersections, one at the post office, and especially the one over there by the trailer park as you turn into the gas station, the pedestrians have a right-of-way, and the cars have to stop for the pedestrians. So the more pedestrians you're going to have, the more congestion you're going to have with the traffic stopping. And I've noticed as I turn left from Emma, if there's people crossing there at the entrance to the gas station, that the traffic backs up clear out on the highway. And I've noticed this several times, and I don't know, my question is, what can we do about that? And you might get those flashy lights like they have in Carbondale, but I kind of have it's kind of a warning for me that you're straight through at the intersection at the post office is going to be impeded by a lot of pedestrians.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Next. Anyone else? Come on up, please.
I'm giving today. Weather. I'm David Jones. I
Hey,
live
David.
at 521 Emma Road. I am Lee's neighbor. Immediately to him, 521 is adjacent and abutting to the property that we're discussing. And I have a little experience in development, but I won't bore you other than say I've done everything I can possibly do. I'm too damn old to carry on. So having a big background in development, I have an opinion with this company. This company is a group of very fine businessmen, and they have the pain of trying to satisfy everyone in this building and in this town. I think it's an incredible bit of work that you've done, and I've done everything you've done, and maybe that's why I got old. So I'm going to make it short. I heartily hope that you realize this is an opportunity. If it doesn't come, what's next? If that doesn't come, what's going to follow it? I think it's a real good opportunity. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. I mean, I've got half a dozen, maybe or more, suggestions, and when I've talked to some of the people there, they've listened. And I think that they're just going to put a great project out there. So I live just where you're talking about. I have that ground. I have a willow tree, and I say, hi, I represent my daughter. She takes care of me. She planted a willow tree like this. That's 6 feet. And it's now 45 to 50 feet high. The soil and the wet soil is just delicious. Willows love that, and so do the other trees. Aspen trees that were just little stubby guys 20 years, that was it, nearby a forest. So I'm going to avoid saying what I suggest because I think the benefits, part of which haven't been discussed, such as the financial side, what backflows, what is created by their project is pretty impressive. They're going to feed money and then feed consumer stuff. That's not me.
That's me.
That's it.
Oh, that's you?
That's your time, David. You're out of time.
It's you, David.
Thank you very much. So good
Thank
to
you.
see you here. Thanks, David. Next up. Anyone else want to comment?
There's some there.
Get online.
We have some,
Oh, we got one.
Scott Thompson, we
Jump
have.
in here, we have somebody coming up.
No, I think you got it, Scott.
I'm Scott Thompson, the fire chief. John, hard to follow him. He made a lot of good points. I just want to make a point about the developer. John spoke with them, seeked them out. They didn't come to us and say, hey, be our public amenity. We want to do this for you. They agreed to what we asked in our agreement. I think that speaks volumes about the developer. I feel much more comfortable than we have in a couple other deals that we were working. And I just want to make that point that I think it's a good fit for this parcel. And it's a good fit for the fire department. And who doesn't want to house firefighters, paramedics?
Amen.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Appreciate that. Next up, anyone else want to address council on the Jadwin Black Mountain development? Please come on up.
My name is Fiona Hagest, and I live on 220 Riverside Drive. I also just wanted to give a little background. I grew up here and have known Coulter and Bridger my entire life, and I'll keep it short and sweet, but I really couldn't imagine another group of people who would take the thought and care, having lived here, grown up here, that they have taken in developing and looking at this proposal, keeping the balance of housing, which we desperately need, and as well as open space, and being thoughtful about how the impact of the open space will affect the community, but also protect the river. So,
Thanks, Fiona. So, next, please. Anyone else want to comment, address council on the Jadwin Black Mountain development? Anybody calling in?
Yeah, Mayor, we've got several people with their hand up calling in. Jonathan
Greach.
If you want to unmute, you can provide comments to the council.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right, yeah, my name's Jonathan Greach, and I live at 23272 Two Rivers Road, so just down the street from you all. I have an office on Midland Avenue. I have a daughter at growing years, and I've been in Basalt since 2017, so I think honestly I'm kind of the archetype of, a young family who moves to Basalt, puts roots down here, and loves this community and wants to be here for the long haul. And, this really is one of the last suitable places in Basalt for density and affordable housing. And I think a lot of the opponents just keep saying, hey, we support affordable housing, and I'm sure they do, but, realistically, we're running out of space. There's nowhere else to do this. My daughter's teachers literally are driving in from Rifle, and it breaks my heart every day when I see the bags in their eyes. Our local businesses are struggling, and if we don't continue to create housing for the workers, this community, it's going to be ripped apart. It's not sustainable. And, as someone who lives here and owns a home here, I think construction is an eyesore too, but to be honest, I don't think we have a choice. We need to look to the future. We have to build housing for the people that work and serve in our community. And if
Thank you very much. Do we have other here? We have,
Mickey Hall. Mickey, if you want to unmute, you can speak to the council.
Hi. Thank you very much for taking our comments and considering them. I own an office in Riverview Plaza Building, and many of my comments were already mentioned, but a couple things that haven't been addressed is the feel that will change. My view is I really like to preserve our mountain town feel as well as meeting the housing needs. And I think something that hasn't been mentioned is that all of the housing that's being currently developed in Willits, because one of the presenters said that we have to start thinking about housing, but I mean, look around when you go to City Market, all that housing hasn't even been finished yet. So it's really short-sighted to think that, you know, we need to jump on this now before we see what the effect of that is. I also feel like it's short-sighted to think that a row of trees is going to make that lot beautiful and hide the buildings. You know, we all know that now when you drive into Two Rivers Road, the feel that you get when you go past the building as you go past the park, what used to feel like a park is now like the building's right on top of you, and that's what's being presented here. And when they presented their map of downtown Basalt, you could see that there's very, very few green spots left on that map, and this is one of them. And we don't want to create the entrance to become like Willits and add more pavement, because yes, they're going to have to mitigate the traffic problems, but they're going to do that by adding more pavement. And we saw in the last presentation that they have plans to develop next door too, which they haven't even talked about this time. So no matter if it's a smaller building, it's still a building, and it's still an apartment building, and it's still the entrance to our town. So that's what we kind of have to figure out. And also in their pictures, they already had 2 cars on the frontage road, and they also want to change the frontage road considerably. And last presentation, they had totally citified the bike path. And so do we want all this change just so that these boys can do their big development on this piece of land that is really our beautiful entrance to Basalt? Or do we want to have them pick a more suitable spot? And also, when we go to City Market, it's already completely jammed. If all the locals don't buy these apartments, and now we have more populace, including what's coming in Willits, what's it going to be like to go to the grocery store anymore? So thank you. That's all I have to say.
thank you.
It looks like next we have Bruce Stahlbach. Bruce, if you'd like to unmute, you can speak to the council.
Okay, thank you very much. A couple of things I'd like to speak to.
Bruce, would you tell us your address, please, where you're?
I live at 304 Arlington Road in Eagle County.
Okay.
The first thing I'd like to discuss is who gets the affordable housing in terms of the partnerships. I feel like, and I kind of mentioned this in my earlier comment, but it should be refined more, and it should be limited to people who live
right, thank you. Next up, we still have some hands up on our virtual call-in. Do we? No, we got Mickey, we got Bruce.
Would anybody else on the Zoom call like to speak to the council? If so, please raise your hand. It looks like Randy, no, yeah, Randy Chase.
Randy Chase.
Randy, if you'd like to unmute, you can speak to the council.
You have the floor.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Matt Chase is the name. I'm a regular visitor to the wrong to my left. Recently, became involved with housing, which I started out when I worked as a volunteer at Katrina, where I worked with Habitat for Humanity and a lot of groups that were rebuilding homes for disaster victims. And through those progression over the last 20 years, I've experienced a lot of different types of crisis housing. And you know, I'm not saying that a wildfire or a hurricane swept through the Roaring Fork Valley, but a horrible housing situation in the Roaring Fork Valley is a crisis. And I think if you guys are willing to look at some of the options that we use at me.
Looks like he lost his connection here. There is somebody on here, Alpha One. If you'd like to unmute, you can speak to the council.
Randy's back.
Alpha One, if you would like to speak to the council.
That's kind of stealth. Alpha 1 to Beta 5.
For some reason, we're not getting Alpha One. It looks like Randy Chase is back on. Randy, if you'd like to unmute, you can finish your comments.
Geez, I sure do apologize. I'll try and take just 30 seconds more. So what I wanted to propose is for the dog leg component of this, and it's something that I'll follow up with some more documentation. There's a woman with an organization in Covington who recently created the first residential mobile home park. Sydney is her name, and with the Roaring Fork Development Corporation. And I'd like to collaborate with her and present an idea about some Habitat for Humanity like mortgage ownership programs for that little parcel that you guys are calling the object. Thanks for your.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you guys hear me?
Are you
Is this Alpha One?
Are you Alpha 1?
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is Ben Pollock. I grew up here in Basalt, Colorado, and this is the project I'm working on at work. Obviously, it's my work soon, but just wanted to call in and.
I'm sorry, could you give us your name and address, please? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Yeah, it's Ben Pollock, and I live at 361 Robinson Street, over in Willits.
Sure, okay, thanks.
And yeah, I just wanted to call in and give my support to Bridger and Coulter and their project. I have been in the construction industry for over 10 years now. I grew up here in the Valley. Mayor Leroy Durox was my Pee Wee basketball coach. Grew up here, loved it, saw my parents work their butts off to make it here and to just give me an awesome time growing up here. And now I just really respect their hard work because I see just what a great valley this is, but just how big of a problem the housing is. But with my experience in construction, I've done everything from setting roads and utilities to commercial, and now I'm doing residential up in Aspen. As far as site selection goes, this is a great site. It's not very far to bring in utilities. The most cost-effective way to build housing is Stotts Mill, projects like this, other developments that give people like me a chance to live the dream of being able to make it here, is what I'm really hoping for. And so we desperately need projects like this. I work in Aspen, and I have a lot of subs who drive from Grand Junction, and I think we need to do all we can as a group to think creatively. It's a hard problem, but we got to push the unaffordability line back up to at least Old Snowmass, and let Basalt be a place where workers can live and people who want to work any sort of job. But right now that unaffordability line is really getting pushed down to Carbondale. But I think with projects like this, we can make this a little pocket where people can live and work, and you don't have to be a millionaire. So thank you.
Thanks a lot. Anyone else, either in the audience or virtual call-ins? I think we're through all the call-ins. Are we?
Yeah, nobody else has their hand up on the call-ins.
Okay. So, going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, at this point, I'll close the public hearing, 5 after 8. And this is an opportunity for council to direct questions to the applicant to see if we might want to outline what questions or requests for additional information we might have.
I'd like to address the AMI and the affordability. I really appreciate what you guys are doing, but I'd also like to know the approximate numbers. Do we have like what a unit would cost in that AMI? I know it's adjusted to AMI, but you have those units, and then I'd also like to know your approximate cost of your free market units.
We can send you a spreadsheet with the AMI unit costs.
Okay.
I don't think we have them here right now, do we?
It was provided to us by town staff. Obviously, it will change as the AMIs change, but we can look at a snapshot today of what it looks like, and we've been provided with that. It's in our memo to staff. We just didn't show the graph tonight.
Okay. Well, James is going to be collecting these questions, and then we'll probably package this together, serve it back to you guys, and then we'll decide on, a future meeting date where we'll take this back up again, and you can, click off through the questions. Okay? A companion question with that, I think, is phasing. Were we clear about phasing? I mean, obviously, the game that one always finds themselves in is that phase 1 is all the free market units, and then the town pulls teeth for 10 years to try to get the affordable units. So obviously, we're going to want an equitable sort of distribution between free market and affordable right up front. So you might address that.
Good question. Obviously, the infrastructure will come first.
Yes.
And then our plan would be right now to develop all the multifamily first. So that includes both 100% of the deed restricted units and then a portion of the free market units.
That's just a question that's going to be on this punch list for
Okay.
you to address. So we're going to want to know how that is going to play out.
I guess I'm just a little unclear. So that we're just tossing questions at them, they're going to come back with them, and this isn't really comment time?
Yep.
It can be comment time if you had comments.
Sure.
Yeah, so I do have comments, actually. I want to thank everybody for all the comments that they provided, whether for, opposed, or middle ground, or whatever it is. And thank you for your presentations and the hard work that you've done. To talk to Heather directly, yes and no, and that's, I'm hoping, to give you something to go back with, is at least the way I took your soliloquy, if you will. It's just my opinion, and just from talking to the other folks here, that I am not, don't build. I am, let's get some affordable housing done. But I feel like to me, this is too dense of a property for that space. I feel, having looked at the master plan myself, because we're talking about 72 units plus 12 cabins, right? The 12 cabins, to me, it's aspirational. I think that it's kind of a cool idea, but I don't know that's not a problem solver here. Does it maybe speak a little bit more to the master plan? We can talk about that. But in my opinion, I think 72 units is just too dense for this area. And I'm not in love with the mix of studios, 1s, 2s, and, 4-bedroom options. Because I don't believe affordable studios is really, I don't think it's as helpful, because we're talking about families and families with kids, and a good mix of this is going to be people that, can afford to get into these 1 to 2, like 1-bedroom units or studio kind of quality units. I do appreciate the focus on the quality and the attention to detail with regards to not having a bad looking and or constructed development. But I think my where I'm just really, really struggling with it is the density on that space. It just seems like every spot is paved, and I just feel like I'm not also in love with sort of sliding the AMI to, getting rid of category 2 and just starting at 3, 4, 5. That's another thing I'm really, really struggling with. I'm obviously there's a reason that was done, but I think with those kinds of things, it makes it hard for me. It makes it hard for me to kind of understand, like, is it, if we're going affordable housing, why slide away from probably the most affordable category, right? And with affordable housing as a solution, I really think, the studios are going to allow some people to get skin in the game, but that doesn't probably help the teacher with probably maybe a spouse or a child or whatever it is. And I feel like if we re-look at this, and I hope you do, that you take those under consideration, because I have a hard time seeing it sit empty. With the problems that we're facing, that also doesn't make sense to me. And I think if there's something to be found here, we can, we just are going to have to be able to do it together and come back with more of, we just took away the glamping pads and we're going to leave the open space, and it's not 72 units, it's 72 plus short-term rental, which I just don't see kind of living, symbiotically. I just, if your goal is to take things away, those are some of the things I would like for you to take away, from me, anyways. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Cool.
Are we gonna move topics, or how are we gonna do?
Have at it. Just
Have at it. Okay. So I have some affordable housing comments with a question kind of nested in the middle. So I appreciate that kind of the change in the direction and trying to satisfy more of the goals, and kind of a full-throated support of affordable housing. It is important. It is something that we have to tackle. There's not many opportunities left to do it. So that's part of the impetus for a lot of these comments. I think it's going to have to be a pretty innovative and diverse set of tools from the toolbox to make this work. I do share Dieter's concern about taking away the category 2. I think that's one thing that needs to be in there. It needs to be part of the mix. The partnership stuff seemed encouraging, the lists as far as who's engaged and everything, and the support for that. I think getting more of that, it's fluid right now, and I understand that's the way it is, but getting more people on board with that, because ultimately, I feel like we need to get to the point where it's all, except for the short-term rental stuff, it's RO in some way, shape, or form, right? There's different ways you can do RO, I think, and that's kind of my question. If this is, this is housing for for locals, if we're gonna say, hey, you have right of first refusal, you know, why wouldn't we do some kind of variation of an RO? Like, I think we can get that percentage bumped up and accomplish a lot of goals that you guys want to do and that we want to do without exacerbating the issues we already have and like putting a dent in it for the community as far as getting some people some places to live so they can be here and be part of the community, right? I mean, I think we're all on the same page there, but we just need to push a little harder and be a little more aspirational in how we get to that point. So those are my affordable housing comments. Thank you,
I
though.
what Dieter said about the category 2, and I think that it's a lot of studios. I feel like I had similar comments about Basalt Circle, but it's just a lot of studios, and I not that they would go to waste, but I do think that there are just so many families in the valley, and that's what we do. You know, we team up and we multiply, and people, you know, need a bigger space, and I just don't know that 32 studio units is that helpful for the situation that we're in.
I would also like to see the breakdown comparatively from your total 72 units, you know, you have the 30%. I would just like to see unit numbers. So of the 32 studios, what percentage, you know, like exact numbers, because you look at percentages and they can get mixed up. I'm also just, the density is, I get what you guys are trying to do, but it's just hard. That's such a small road, and I know we're gonna revisit that. I would like to also ask town staff more of a question on where is Basalt at? And I asked this during the master plan, and I would rather see some more detailed numbers, so it's not totally you guys, but it's in general on development, is CDOT, how many more cars do they think we can have on the road? How much more sanitation do we have? How much more water can we supply? You know, I feel we don't, it's always been described to me over the last 6 years as fees. Everyone gets a fee, school district gets a fee. I would like to see some more numbers, where we're at now, how we're doing, where we expect to be, whether we have this or not. So just kind of outside your guys' purview, but I think it's a very important discussion for us as a town to have. It's also part of our small characters. You know, we were just looking at a $28 million police and public works facility that we need, but that's just, we've grown out of the small town we once were. And so I think that's very concerning for everyone that spoke here, both for and against, so. But yeah, just the details, just the getting into the AMIs and the exact breakdown from what you're doing. I also appreciate you guys saying that you'll sell to the locals. I think Tree Farm did it too. I don't know where they are at it. So I appreciate you taking that step, but I don't really see to me it's just lip service, but just to throw it out there.
And sorry, one other is that the 30 days for the RO, I think that needs to be probably 90. And what was something I'd like to see, that we stretch out beyond the 30.
The availability period for local buyers.
Correct.
Yeah, that caught my ear too. The 30 days seems like it's really short, you know. Yeah, like I would suggest 90 as a minimum. Yeah, my comments are a bit akin to Dieter's. I think that, and I think I'm just raising the question. I haven't formulated an opinion, but it seemed like the original program was this kind of wildly ambitious mix of housing and glamping and fishing cabins, and you know, it was a pretty diverse, very much fun celebration of the river. I mean, I kind of understood that, but it seems like the direction we're going now is like zeroing in and getting down to really the business of community housing. And it feels like the fishing cabins feel a little incongruous right now. It's just kind of like a public rental amenity in the middle of, like, you know, a serious community housing development where, like, serious real people live, and, you know, just how you pull that off just feels like a challenge. But, you know, is it critical to your pro forma? Don't know. I mean, you know, the glamping, I think I would let go of that, not because there's anything that's offensive about it. It's just more human activity, more intensity, and it's just gonna be tough for you guys. I think, you know, you can affect a much more sort of comfortable site plan without having to kind of commit that space. But again, I'm not trying to do your business, but I think they're things I would definitely consider. And, you know, without the fishing cabins, but, you know, are the fishing cabins, you know, represent some big major chunk of your ROI? I don't know. I can understand if they are, that's a tough deal to swing. But if they're not, that might buy you some functional open space that could really help out the density issue. So, anyway, so we're going to continue to meet about this.
I just have one other thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
The line confused me. It's, whatever, it's page, I think it's in the town. Yeah, it's in the town draft part. Is this all for sale? Is some rental? Is some, obviously the fishing cabins aren't for rental. If you don't sell it, you're gonna rent it, like, cause there is this one line about amended from the proposal, the breakdown of affordable housing from all category 2 rental, which is what you were first doing.
Correct.
And then now it's category 3, it's the other areas. So is this all ownership?
Yes.
All the deed restricted will be ownership.
Yes.
All deed restricted is ownership.
Correct.
And then some of the free market's rental, some,
Yes.
and some of the free market's ownership.
Correct.
It's all the above.
No, the deed restricted, based on the feedback that we heard, there was a strong preference to make all the deed restricted for sale. So that all the deed restricted are for sale. We'd like to keep some optionality on the free market, whether it's for sale free market or for rental. We'd like to keep that optionality because markets change, and we're kind of still swimming alone, and we want to make, you know, we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. You know, we don't want to sit here and promise you guys something that we get permits for but can't get financing for. So we're kind of walking that fine line, and that's why we wanted to keep that optionality on the free market.
Okay. I would just, one cautionary thing, and I'm the only one that beats this drum, is I appreciate the for sale for the lower AMIs. I worry about the same thing they're running up to in Aspen. If you look at their programs, you have to have a strong HOA in there. You have to maintain these buildings. You know, we can make some part of this affordable, but the plumber's not affordable, the appliances aren't affordable. Like, it can spiral out of control, and I think we're seeing that in Aspen. The last thing I want to do is bring that into Basalt. So, just a concern.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to echo with the river, keeping it to crusher fine and the trails and no glamping and emergency access. I think that's prudent, but I just want to echo that I'd be supportive of pulling that out.
That's good direction for us. That's, I think, an important kind of thing tonight to hear from you is on the glamping. Should we just remove it altogether? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. We need the glamping. I worry
Well,
about the impact that'll have, you know, just on the river. You know, for people visiting, they don't live here. I feel like all of us who live here, you feel a certain pride and ownership of like taking care of the river, and I feel like we should keep that going.
So, Mr. Counselor, do we have to continue this to a date certain, or do we continue it to a date to be stipulated?
No, we should continue it to a date certain.
To a date certain, okay. So, what's everybody's druther on that? Next
I
meeting?
mean, we still gotta review the traffic, we've gotta.
Yeah, how much time do we need to respond to this stuff? Do you want to try to go for this on, it would be February 13th or February 27th?
So I mean, I think it's a question for the applicant, if you guys are ready to present the next, your traffic studies or respond to any of the comments from council, we could just continue it to February 13th. If the applicant feels that they're not ready to proceed at that time, could communicate with staff. And
Okay.
we could just
So
continue it
we'll-
again.
We'll stipulate the 13th, but that's no promise that 13th is going to be a decision meeting.
Correct.
But I would say probably by the 27th, we should anticipate that will be.
It's up to you guys.
We'll decide when we decide, but that's just roughly, it's going to look like the 13th, and maybe we get closure on this by the 27th, when up and down vote, or the 27th, something like that. How's that sound?
That sounds good. Could I ask one more question I thought of? What, the person on the dog leg, or the residents on the dog leg right now, what'll become of that as far as them living there?
So when we initially contemplated dedicating the dog leg to the town and they would be displaced, we were anticipating giving them priority for relocation into one of the deed-restricted units. We were waiting for sort of council's direction on the dog leg. If we know for sure it's not going to be part of our development application, I guess we anticipate it being subdivided out and being a separate lot. But we haven't really thought further than that. I think, high level, if there is some other development play to be had on that site, we would want them relocated, and a unit to be dedicated for them in the new development.
It'd be on the growth boundary, so it'd be
It is,
an
yeah.
annexation application.
Yeah, I know. I was one that reacted pretty negatively to the idea of amending our growth boundary. That's one of the things we really want to hang on to. Okay, with no further comment, then I will thank you thank you guys for all the amendments. This has come quite a far ways from our last meeting, and so thanks for your attention to all the previous comments of the council and the staff. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, I move the town council continue the public hearing to February 13th, 2024.
Second.
So,
All those in favor?
all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye, okay. So we're back at it on the 13th. And
Thanks, guys.
we are hereby adjourned. There we go.
One thing I think